over at HartmannReport.com. It's titled GOP, How Dare You Tell the Truth? And it's about a series of articles that have been published in both the Washington Post and the New York Times over the last 3 weeks, tracking down or showing how researchers who are looking into lies and disinformation are now themselves being, in the crosshairs. They are the targets of lawsuits and congressional action designed to basically intimidate them and shut them up. I start out with the story of Kate Starbird, who is a researcher at the University of Washington on disinformation. And she's mentioned in both articles. And, she thought she was doing the right thing, tracking down the source of deadly lies that killed 500,000 Americans, the COVID lies, and also almost led to the overthrow of the U.S. government, January 6th, and all the stuff around that. Where did these lies come from, she wanted to know. And she's not alone in this. There's a whole bunch of researchers. She was the one that was profiled in the Washington Post. But little did she realize when she started this research into something that, makes perfectly reasonable sense, that the very people whose behavior she was studying would use the power of government to try to destroy her work, stop her funding, and even try to destroy her personal life and her reputation. And not just hers. I mean, right across the board. What we see now is there are lawsuits coming out of a couple of right-wing groups affiliated with the Trump administration. We're seeing Jim Jordan, who is the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, has subpoenaed a number of these groups. He's subpoenaing reporters. He's subpoenaing people who are involved in research into disinformation, lies, misinformation. And of course, you get a subpoena from him, and in many cases he's subpoenaing, quote, all emails, correspondence, tweets, social media, everything going back to 2015. Now just imagine, you get a thing, you're sitting at home and a sheriff comes up and says, here, you've been subpoenaed. And the subpoena says that you've got to turn over to Jim Jordan's committee every email that might even peripherally touch upon any of these topics or any correspondence with other people who are investigating these topics for the last 2015, 8 years? Could you even do that? And Jim Jordan is threatening to put people in jail, in prison, if they refuse to, if they don't comply rapidly enough. And the effect of this has been to completely intimidate people. I mean, they're going after interns, they're going after students who are working on these projects, they're obviously going after professors. Why are they doing this? Well, it's for a very obvious reason in my mind. The Republican Party used to call themselves the Party of Ideas. Remember this back in the 80s? If you're old enough, you remember this, the Reagan administration. We're the party of new ideas. We've got some great new ideas. Unions are actually they're driving down wages on workers, the Republicans said. I mean, it was a lie, but people bought it. Union bosses are corrupt and they're enriching themselves. Well, that's a lie. Union bosses are paid a salary. It's not like they're CEOs who make money if the stock goes up, right? These were just lies. Voter fraud is caused by black people in the cities, and we got to crack down on those cities in order to stop. Another lie, a demonstrable lie. Climate change is not caused by fossil fuels. It's a natural, it's sunspots and stuff. Another lie. I mean, they're still promulgating these lies, right? Many of them go back to the 80s and Paul Ryan and his new ideas. But, public school teachers are part of a union-based communist conspiracy. Gays, lesbians, and trans people want to convert your kids. Teaching American history injures white children. Cutting taxes on billionaires helps average people. These are all lies. These are Republican lies. COVID is like the flu and the vaccine is dangerous. Expanding Medicare or regulating big pharma will break our healthcare system. Russia didn't help Trump. The media has a liberal bias. Public schools have failed. Abortions and birth control cause cancer, infertility, and regret. January 6th wasn't a traitorous coup attempt. This is the universe of Republican lies, and there's probably others that I've missed here, and feel free to call me. In fact, I'll go in and edit my article and add them in. But these are the big ones, in my opinion. The big, 10 or 15 Republican lies. And now we've got some researchers, credible university groups and the German Marshall Fund and the University of Washington and others who are looking into where did these lies come from and how do they get spread. And Jim Jordan is doing everything he can to stop that research. And he's being effective. He's being successful. The New York Times had one professor say, I won't even talk to you on the record. I'm afraid for my family. People have been doxxed. They've been swatted. They've been outed. They've been harassed. Kate Starbird deleted her Twitter account, which had 50,000 followers, because she was, being stalked, cyber-stalked. This is, well, as William Shirer said, the historian who lived his first few years, or not his first few years, he lived in Germany through the first few years of the Hitler regime, and then left Germany and went on to write The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, which is, the seminal narrative of history of the Third Reich. He wrote, in Nazi parlance, educated meant intimidated, to a point where all would accept docilely the Nazi dictatorship and its barbarism. Well, the MAGA wing of the Republican Party is devoted to education in this context. And the reason that they can pull it off with Jim Jordan doing this is because the Article 6 of the Constitution says that he can't be held to account. This was the exact same, it says, members of Congress shall in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of the peace be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and they shall not be questioned in any other place. In other words, Jim Jordan can do anything he wants, and nobody can stop him. He has immunity. This was the exact same immunity that was used in the 1950s by Senator McCarthy. Drunken Senator McCarthy, we should add. Joe, good old, tail gunner Joe, they called him, because he pretended to be this was his campaign thing, taking pictures in the gunning tail of I think it was a B-25. So, they can't do anything. People can't stop them. They can't stop him. As the Washington Post reported earlier this month, quote, the pressure has forced some researchers to change their approach or step back, even as disinformation is rising ahead of the 2024 election. The deluge of bad information about disinformation researchers' work has also led to a torrent of digital harassment, threats, and smears. Kate Starbird said, the political part is intimidating to have people with a lot of power in this world making false claims, false accusations about our work. So where did this come from? Where did this idea come from? Well, this is Steve Bannon's strategy. All these lies that I'm citing here, that they're trying to stop anybody from outing them. Steve Bannon told reporter Michael Lewis, the Democrats don't matter. The real opposition is the media, and the way to deal with them is to flood the zone with the S word. I mean, he actually said the word, you know what I'm talking about. Bannon later added, this is not about persuasion, this is about disorientation. And as the New York Times noted, researchers face mounting legal costs and questions from directors and donors about the risks raised by studying disinformation. Online attacks have also taken a toll on morale and in some cases scared away students. So here we have Jim Jordan, the guy who is deeply entangled with Trump's efforts to overthrow our form of government, but appears to have escaped any accountability with regard to that because of the timidity of Merrick Garland. And perhaps the corruption of Chris Wray, I don't know. But Jordan comes out and says, without a trace of irony or self-consciousness, he says, whether directly or indirectly, a government-approved or facilitated censorship regime is a grave threat to the First Amendment and American civil liberties. Yeah, Jim, tell us all about it. This government-run facilitated censorship program that is now coming out of the House Judiciary Committee, and other sources as well. There's other groups as well that are launching lawsuits. This is crazy. In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework.
Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
It's Friday, and boy, do I have a deal for you. This is incredible. It's the end of our pledge drive. Today is the last day. I guess it'll probably extend through the weekend, but functionally, today is the last day, the last real day, the business day of the pledge drive. And our frontline funders, this group of extraordinary people, and by the way, you can become one of them just if you wish, if you have the resources. Just let them know when you call in that you'd like Lydia, the head of the development of fundraising at Free Speech TV, to get back with you. The frontline funders have put up a $10,000 match. So your gift, whatever you give today, and today only, whatever you give today will be doubled. So you give $10, it becomes $20. You give $20, it becomes $40. You give $100, it becomes $200, etc. Up to $10,000. Your $5,000 gift becomes $10,000 today and today only. So if you haven't given before, today is the day. 877-378-8669 is the phone number. Or you can go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Or for that matter, you can text FSTV to 44321, and you can do it on your phone if you want. But this is just spectacular. This is this match. And on top of that, that same group of frontline funders put up another $10,000 that will be unlocked if we can hit our goal. Now, we're still $70,000 short of hitting our goal, or at least we were this morning when I got a note from Lydia, an email. And so, it's a big lift. It's a lot of money that we've got to raise today. But I believe we can do it. And I believe that you're willing to help, and that you're going to help, that you're going to call 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution online, or text FSTV to 44321 and make it happen. Let's have a successful end to this pledge drive. The frontline funders who are making this possible: Sheila in Cochise, Arizona, Ed and Yvonne in Pennsylvania, Andrew in San Diego, Vivian and Bobby in La Puente, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Tracy in Jacksonville, Oregon, Brenda in Copperas Cove, Texas, Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia, Carol in Bandon, Oregon, Steve in McLean, Virginia, Charlene in Houston, Texas, Sam in Desert Hot Springs, California, Diane in Avalon, California, Reggie in Raleigh, North Carolina, Diane in Santa Rosa, California, Mike in Tippecanoe County, Indiana, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado. Thank you, by the way. A special thanks to the frontline funders. If you're watching, thank you so much for making this match possible, and all the support that you've given to Free Speech TV that helps all of the rest of us, just lift this network up and hold it. The gifts that are available for one-time gifts, of course, you can become a sustaining member, and you can do both. You can say,
I want that book by Thom Hartmann autographed. Here's $120, or I want all 9 of them. Here's $1,000. And by the way, please charge my credit card $25 a month for the rest of the year, or for the next 12 months. And they'll do it. They'll just work all that out. They've got these databases and all this fancy stuff, and they can just make it happen. So the gifts include, with a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, a good old standby that we've had for 15 years now on this program, or the Free Speech TV window cling, or the I'm Voting Are You car magnet. With a $50 gift, you get the Free Speech TV keychain plus the window cling, or the Free Speech TV fall canvas tote bag, which is right here. It's a very cool little fall canvas tote bag. I've showed this to you before, but it's really, I like it. Let's see, that's with a $50 gift. With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV baseball cap, or the Thom Hartmann, the official Thom Hartmann Free Speech TV. This is a little beaten up and coffee stained, but you'll get a clean one, a fresh one, the program mug. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV t-shirt, or Mike book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, or David Pakman's new book, Think Like a Detective, A Kid's Guide to Critical Thinking, or Sonali's new book, Rising Up, The Power of Narrative in Pursuing Racial Justice. And I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that those books are going to be autographed too, if you want one of those books. With a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie, which is, this is a heavy-duty hoodie. I mean, this is a John Fetterman hoodie, right? This is a good, solid, healthy, heavyweight, warm, ready for winter hoodie. Well, that's it with a $200 gift. With a $240 gift, there is the virtual meet and greet where we get together on Zoom. It's typically half a dozen to a dozen people, and we'll just talk for an hour about whatever's on your mind, and I'll give you my unvarnished opinions. And, you know, it's not recorded, so it's just us. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us for the last hour of the program. Or you can get all 9 of the Hidden History books, the whole series, which includes, you know, voting, and I don't have I guess the list isn't in here anymore. But anyhow, voting, monopolies, the guns, there's a whole bunch of them. So bottom line, we need your help now. And your gift will be doubled. Whatever you give will be matched 100% up to $10,000. So please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org. Thank you so much.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, hey, happy Friday, Shabbat Shalom, Juma Mubarak, TGIF. It's, by the way, it's the very last day of summer as well. Error message on the nonprofit. Okay. A lot to talk about today. First of all, by the way, if you are on Blue Sky or Spill, these two social media platforms, you've got to have an invitation to get into them. And I would love to get into them. If you are on one of those, would you invite me? The email that I use for social media is tom@thomhartmann.com. So you can just plug it in there. Anyhow, a lot to talk about today. Can we stop China, Russia, Murdoch, Saudi Arabia, and the Putin GOP, the Putin Republicans? You know, from now on, I'm just going to start calling them the Putin Republicans, because that's really what they are. Stop the Putin Republicans from tearing down our democracy. Also, Shutdown Watch. Kevin McCarthy hands the gavel to Matt Gaetz as Hakeem Jeffries tells the Republican Party, we're not paying the ransom note. We'll get to that in a moment. Also, holy moly, Clarence Thomas secretly participated in Koch network donor events. In the second hour of our program, what Maslow overlooked, the need to feel alive. And what about all those little boxes we live in? This is about a new website, by the way, that Louise and I launched this week. It's called hunterinfarmersworld.com, and it's about ADHD. If you are or you know somebody who is a hunter in a farmer's world, you might want to check it out. We've got 2 articles up. I'll be putting a couple of articles a week up there. It's free, you know, and I think you'll find it fascinating. The 2 that are there are, well, I'll be talking about one of them shortly. So it's Hunters with an S, Hunters in a Farmer's apostrophe, you know, with an S, no apostrophe, but anyhow.
huntersinafarmersworld.com. Or maybe it's hunterinAfarmersworld.com. Holy cow, let me just double check. Yeah, it's Hunter, in a farmer's world. I'm going to have to get Hunters in a farmer's world as well and point to it. Okay, anyhow, Trump is going to use auto workers as props for his counter-programming against the Republican debate, and Democrats are having none of it. We'll talk about that in the second hour. And in the third hour, are the Republican Party's opponents in an arms race to out-extreme and out-cruel each other? And also in the third hour, Geeky Science, from cage-free chicks to puppy mills, the Republican Party is trying to roll back animal protections. Not only is it cruel, but it would spread disease. I'll tell you about that in the third hour of the program. But to start, can we stop China, Russia, Murdoch, Saudi Arabia, and the Putin GOP from tearing down our democracy? I frankly have no easy solutions to this other than getting everybody you know, A, informed, and B, registered to vote, C, out to vote on Election Day, both this November and a year from this November. China, Russia, and a handful of right-wing Republican billionaires are trying to tear down our democracy. And the Putin Republicans, this is, the MAGA GOP. I think we should start calling them Putin Republicans, because that's really what they are. Chris Murphy, the senator from Connecticut, I believe Connecticut, just posted this morning on Twitter that 7 senators and about a dozen members of the House, I guess, have now come out against funding Ukraine. They want Putin to win the war. They are, there with Cornel West and Code Pink and all these other folks who are, saying, oh, just hand Ukraine over to Putin. He's a good guy, rape as an instrument of war, that's acceptable to us. It's crazy. Anyhow, most of the last 7,000-year history of modern civilization, autocracy has been the principal political system. Kings and kingdoms and emperors and popes and whatnot, autocrats. And it's only in the last couple of hundred years that we've had democracy. We were the first major experiment with it, in the last 3,000 years. And at the time of the Civil War, the whole world, there was a handful of these democracies around the world, but basically the whole world just held its breath going, holy cow, this is not going to be good. And at that time, there were only 5 or 6 democracies in the entire world when the Civil War happened. But after the Civil War, going up to the 21st century, we saw a steady explosion of democracy all around the world. Now, in the last 20 years, we've seen a lot of backsliding as the right-wing oligarchs in country after country after country have risen up and taken over the countries. Russia, Hungary, Egypt, Turkey, Brazil, the Philippines, Peru, etc. Brazil has, rejected Bolsonaro. They're back to democracy, but you get the point. And they've all embraced strongman governments and rule by the rich. Now, for much of the 20th century, we were the major advocates for democracy. Now, we were please don't get me wrong, we were not perfect in this regard at all. I mean, we overthrew democratically elected governments in Iran, Iraq, Chile, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador. We were not necessarily good actors, but we were promoting democracy generally, as much as anybody else was. And then, came along Putin's boy Trump, who took over Radio Free Europe and turned it into a right-wing government-run Fox version of Fox so-called news. And we're slowly recovering from that damage that was done by Putin's boy Trump. And now what we're finding is that China and Russia are aggressively participating in this upcoming election, mostly through social media. The Russian bot and troll farms, they have a large voice on Twitter or X and Facebook. And China now, according to the New York Times, is funding Code Pink, or at least the people involved with it. And as wildfires were savaging Maui, Chinese proxies on social media began spreading stories that the fires were the result of a U.S. weather weapon. Right? And here in the U.S., the New York Times documented how China is funding these formerly progressive groups. And now you got Cornel West out there, the Green Party, saying, oh, yeah, just turn Ukraine over to Putin. Chris Murphy, as I said, he's 24 Republicans, including 7 senators, pledged to oppose additional Ukraine funding. And now Saudi Arabia has jumped into the 2024 election. They're jacking up oil prices. The headline over at Axios kind of says it all. The Saudis will have a say in U.S. elections. The Russians and Saudis cut oil production, so now you've got Brent crude, the crude oil prices pushing $100 a barrel, which means $6 a gallon gas, which is already happening. And Saudi Arabia now owns the largest gasoline refinery in America, 100% owned by Saudi Arabia. And so I think you can probably expect to see gasoline at maybe even $8 a gallon a year from now as we head into the 2024 election. At the same time, the 2 largest social media companies are laying off the staff that fact checks tweets and Facebook posts and dialing back on policing their platforms. At the same time that that's happening, the right-wing oligarchs, Russia and China, are blazing new paths in the hearts and minds of Americans. Putin Republicans have blocked most U.S. government efforts to stop this fire hose of misinformation. In fact, a bunch of Republicans, Jeff Landry, the Attorney General in Louisiana, Missouri's Republican Attorney General Eric Schmidt, sued to prevent our government from informing social media sites about propaganda coming from foreign governments. And the Supreme Court backed them up. So now we're basically standing naked in the face of this onslaught, this coming onslaught of lies and disinformation that will be coming along with these elections. And you've got these Republican politicians who have aligned themselves with Russia and China and Saudi Arabia against democracy, promoting the presidency of Donald Trump, and now Vivek Ramaswamy taking, Trumpy positions. He wants to shut down the government. He wants to fire 1 million people, et cetera. And over at Fox News, Rupert Murdoch is retiring. His son is reportedly even more authoritarian than he is. So get ready. Between our corrupt Supreme Court, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and their Citizens United decision, and these, foreign actors, it's going to get wild. It's just going to get absolutely wild. And we need to be preparing our friends and families for this, and ourselves, of course. So stay tuned, as they say. It's 15 minutes past the hour. I'll be back. Stay with us.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Weekend, and I'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls in just a moment. Back. Pete in Los Angeles, you're on the air. Hey, Pete, what's up?
How about Medicare?
Yeah, what about Medicare?
I got Part A and B. Now I'm in search of a gap plan.
Right.
Fill the gap. An insurance agent is offering me, so we say, 2 plans. A PPO plan and a, what he calls a HMO Medicare Advantage plan.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm unsure about this Advantage part, the word just in there, and he hasn't been able to offer anything else.
Medicare Advantage is not Medicare. It's private health insurance. If you want to abandon Medicare and go back into the marketplace, in the private health insurance marketplace, where the insurance company inserts it between yourself and the doctor, and they insert themselves between you and your hospital, everything you do has to be pre-approved. Half the time, well, not half the time, but a good percentage of the time, they will refuse to pay for things. Then go with the Medicare Advantage. Go with real Medicare and get a Medigap plan. And the best one I can find, looking around, I'm a fan of Mutual of Omaha's Medigap plans, but find whatever works for you.
Well, that's what he says. It's this gap plan is called Medicare Advantage.
No, it's not.
Gap plan. Oh.
No, Medigap plans are not called Medicare Advantage. And if he's trying to sell you something called Medicare Advantage, it's because Medicare Advantage plans will pay, in some cases, over $2,000 as a commission to an insurance salesman, an insurance broker, whereas the Medigap plans only pay a couple of hundreds in commissions.
So just avoid the word advantage altogether, is what you're saying?
That's correct, in my humble opinion.
Okay, well, so I'm looking for a gap plan, and
I would suggest that you don't even go through a broker, that you simply do it on your own online. And, you know, check out, you go to Mutual of Omaha's website, you can go to United Healthcare's website, you can go to, if you're in Los Angeles, you can go to Kaiser Permanente's site. They all offer Medigap. I believe Kaiser offers Medigap plans, but all the big insurance companies offer Medigap plans. And
still the agent, you're saying, still avoid the agents.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to have an agent. The agent is going to try to push you into whatever plan is giving them the largest commission. It's just that simple. This industry is insanely corrupt, Pete. There are times when having an agent is a good idea. Travel agents, for example, they make a commission from the airlines and from cruise companies and things like that. But generally speaking, they will work for exactly what you want. But in the insurance industry, insurance agents, I just, frankly, and I'm sure I'm going to get a hate mail and Twitter from insurance agents now. But any insurance agent, if you go to an insurance agent and say, I want real Medicare, and they say, oh, let me tell you about Medicare Advantage, you need to run in the other direction. You have somebody who is unscrupulous and unethical talking to you.
It's only the GAP plan that it says Medicare Advantage, 2 plans, that's the HMO, Medicare Advantage, but I still have A and B. So
no, you don't. The minute you sign up for Medicare Advantage, they will take you off Medicare.
Even though it's claimed as a GAP plan.
Well, if it's called Advantage, it's not a GAP plan. That's the thing. Your insurance agent is BSing you, Pete. I got to run, but thanks for the call, and good luck. It's 19 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls here on the very last day of summer. Stay tuned. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. Fort Lauderdale, Florida recently got whacked with 25 inches of rainfall in less than 7 hours. Tornadoes are tearing up the South and the Midwest in ways that they haven't seen, frankly, ever before. I mean, there have always been tornadoes, but not like these. 200-mile-an-hour winds, these derecos that are a mile long. We have a serious crisis going on right now. There's also a major El Nino. It's off the coast of Peru right now. It's affecting the West Coast. So we're seeing wild swings from drought to floods to drought to floods in the West Coast. Climate change is here. Climate change is real, and climate change is a crisis. What do we know about it? What do we know about these things? How much worse is it going to get before it might get better? What can we do about it? We had a long conversation with Dr. Michael Mann, Distinguished Professor and Director of the Center for Science, Sustainability, and the Media at the University of Pennsylvania. There's a whole long rant about this over at hartmanreport.com. Check it out. And welcome back. So, Shutdown Watch, Speaker McCarthy, it's funny, I noticed over on Daily Kos that they're starting to call him Squeaker McCarthy, because he's like the mouse that roared, right? Yeah, well, he's not actually the mouse that roared. That was a good character. He's kind of a pathetic character. But Squeaker McCarthy has basically handed the Speaker's gavel over to Matt Gaetz, and Matt Gaetz is dancing to the tune of Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. I should say Putin's boy, Trump. And Trump wants the government shut down. Now, part of the reason why Trump wants the government shut down is he mistakenly believes that if the government is brought to its knees, the prosecutors won't get their paychecks and they'll stop prosecuting him. That's not how it works. Even in a government shutdown, our court systems and our prosecutors still operate. Those are essential services, and they are funded even when the government is shut down. So Trump is not going to get his way. But the second reason Trump wants the government shut down is because Vladimir Putin wants the government shut down. He wants to make sure that there's no more appropriations of money for Ukraine, and he wants to inflict as much pain as possible on Americans in the theory that we will blame Joe Biden for it, and therefore we will vote for Donald Trump in 2024. It's increasingly looking like he's going to be the presidential nominee, and the debate that's going to happen next week, the Republican debate, is really going to be a debate over who's going to be the vice presidential candidate. And increasingly, it's looking like it might be either Vivek Ramaswamy or Nikki Haley, which is getting really interesting. But anyhow, Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats in the House of Representatives, came out to talk about this. And yesterday, they couldn't even get a vote to debate a military funding bill, much less a vote on the bill itself. They couldn't even open debate. And Jeffries, he said, we need the extreme MAGA Republicans to get their act together in a civil war that's happening on the Republican side of the aisle. And this is really great. What he had is he said, we've seen this done before. The Republicans shut down the government partially twice in the 1990s. Why? Because they wanted to end Medicare as we know it. Bill Clinton and the Democrats came to the rescue to stop that from happening. Same group of people, different version in 2013, shut the government down for 14 days. Why? Again, jam their extreme right-wing ideology down the throats of the American people. In that instance, they wanted President Obama to repeal his signature legislative accomplishment, the Affordable Care Act, and throw 20 million people or so off the rolls and deprive them of health care. Like we're going to agree to that ransom note. Once again, Democrats to the rescue. 2018 into 19, same thing. They shut down the government for 35 days. By the way, when the government shutdown began, Donald Trump was president. Republicans controlled the House and Senate in December of 2018. They shut themselves down. That's how much it's in their DNA. Why are we going down this road again? He said, why are we going down this road again? We know how it's going to end. We're not paying the ransom note so you can jam your extreme ideology down the throats of the American people and hurt everyday Americans. We never have, and we never will. Amen. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries nailed it. And holy moly, Clarence Thomas. Now, we've sort of known this for a long time. Clarence Thomas and Anthony Scalia used to fly out. I reported on this 15 years ago. Used to fly out and participate in events with the Koch brothers. Well, ProPublica has really nailed the details on this thing. And they're talking about January 25th, 2018, dozens of private jets descended on Palm Springs International Airport. Some of the richest people in the country coming together. At 6 p.m., a Gulfstream G200 jet touched down. In it was Clarence Thomas. And he was there to help raise money for the Koch network to bring cases before the Supreme Court. I mean, this is as corrupt as you can get. If he doesn't step down, if he doesn't resign from the Supreme Court as a result of this, it just absolutely proves that for Republicans, there is no bottom. I mean, there just literally is no bottom. There is a code of conduct for the federal judiciary, and theoretically, technically, it also covers justices on the Supreme Court. Under that, he and Sam Alito should have recused themselves a long time ago when it comes to cases having to do with American billionaires who are bringing cases before the court. And Amy Coney Barrett shouldn't have ruled in the case that involved her father's company, Shell Oil, the fossil fuel industry, when they gutted the EPA's ability to do something about carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. This is breathtaking. Every winter, the network holds its marquee fundraising event in the Coachella Valley in Southern California. Hundreds of donors fly in to learn how their money's being spent and plan for the upcoming year. They often rent out an entire hotel for the event to keep out eavesdroppers. Documents left behind are methodically shredded. One attendee recalled Koch security staff in a golf court escorting their Uber driver out of the hotel to make sure he left. Amazing. You gotta give at least $100,000 a year just to get let into the hotel. Unless you're Clarence Thomas, of course. Then they give you money. We'll be right back. I'll be picking up your calls on the other side of the break.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's Anything Goes Friday. What's on your mind? Up with your calls next.
It's Friday, and boy, do I have a deal for you. This is incredible. It's the end of our pledge drive. Today is the last day. I guess it'll probably extend through the weekend, but functionally, today is the last day, the last real day, the business day of the pledge drive. And our frontline funders, this group of extraordinary people, and by the way, you can become one of them just if you wish, if you have the resources. Just let them know when you call in that you'd like Lydia, the head of the development of fundraising at Free Speech TV, to get back with you. The frontline funders have put up a $10,000 match. So your gift, whatever you give today, and today only, whatever you give today will be doubled. So you give $10, it becomes $20. You give $20, it becomes $40. You give $100, it becomes $200, etc. Up to $10,000. Your $5,000 gift becomes $10,000 today and today only. So if you haven't given before, today is the day. 877-378-8669 is the phone number. Or you can go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Or for that matter, you can text FSTV to 44321, and you can do it on your phone if you want. But this is just spectacular. This is this match. And on top of that, that same group of frontline funders put up another $10,000 that will be unlocked if we can hit our goal. Now, we're still $70,000 short of hitting our goal, or at least we were this morning when I got a note from Lydia, an email. And so, it's a big lift. It's a lot of money that we've got to raise today. But I believe we can do it. And I believe that you're willing to help, and you're going to help, that you're going to call 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution online, or text FSTV to 44321 and make it happen. Let's have a successful end to this pledge drive. The frontline funders who are making this possible: Sheila in Cochise, Arizona; Ed and Yvonne in Pennsylvania; Andrew in San Diego; Vivian and Bobby in La Puente, California; Bill in Boise, Idaho; Tracy in Jacksonville, Oregon; Brenda in Copperas Cove, Texas; Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia; Carol in Bandon, Oregon; Steve in McLean, Virginia; Charlene in Houston, Texas; Sam in Desert Hot Springs, California; Diane in Avalon, California; Reggie in Raleigh, North Carolina; Diane in Santa Rosa, California; Mike in Tippecanoe County, Indiana; Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado. Thank you, by the way. A special thanks to the frontline funders. If you're watching, thank you so much for making this match possible, and all the support that you've given to Free Speech TV that helps all of the rest of us, just lift this network up and hold it. The gifts that are available for one-time gifts, of course, you can become a sustaining member, and you can do both. You can say, I want that book by Thom Hartmann autographed. Here's $120, or I want all 9 of them. Here's $1,000. And by the way, please charge my credit card $25 a month for the rest of the year, or for the next 12 months. And they'll do it. They'll just work all that out. They've got these databases and all this fancy stuff, and they can just make it happen. So the gifts include, with a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, a good old standby that we've had for 15 years now on this program, or the Free Speech TV window cling, or the I'm Voting Are You car magnet. With a $50 gift, you get the Free Speech TV keychain plus the window cling, or the Free Speech TV fall canvas tote bag, which is right here. It's a very cool little fall canvas tote bag. I've showed this to you before, but it's really, I like it. Let's see, that's with a $50 gift. With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV baseball cap, or the Thom Hartmann, the official Thom Hartmann Free Speech TV. This is a little beaten up and coffee stained, but you'll get a clean one, a fresh one, the program mug. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV t-shirt, or Mike book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, or David Pakman's new book, Think Like a Detective, A Kid's Guide to Critical Thinking, or Sonali's new book, Rising Up, The Power of Narrative and Pursuing Racial Justice. And I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that those books are going to be autographed too, if you want one of those books. With a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie, which is, this is a heavy-duty hoodie. I mean, this is a John Fetterman hoodie, right? This is a good, solid, healthy, heavyweight warm, ready for winter hoodie. Well, that's it with a $200 gift. With a $240 gift, there is the virtual meet and greet where we get together on Zoom. It's typically half a dozen to a dozen people, and we'll just talk for an hour about whatever's on your mind, and I'll give you my unvarnished opinions. And, it's not recorded, so it's just us. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us for the last hour of the program. Or you can get all 9 of the Hidden History books, the whole series, which includes, voting, and I don't have I guess the list isn't in here anymore. But anyhow, voting, monopolies, the guns, there's a whole bunch of them. So bottom line, we need your help now. And your gift will be doubled. Whatever you give will be matched 100% up to $10,000. So please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org. Thank you so much. Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out. Welcome back. It's 34 minutes past the hour. It's Anything Goes Friday, picking up your calls here. Jerry in Ontario, California. Hey, Jerry, what's on your mind today?
Yes, thanks for letting me speak to you and the university. This thing that Biden is trying to do with this core for the young people, with the climate core.
Right, yeah.
They don't want no climate core because they don't want young people to be educated or anything. That's why they took out civics.
Who's the they you're talking about?
When Bennett and Reagan took civics out of school.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They don't. This Occupy. I did the Occupy LA and Dennis.
Jerry, you need to get your mouth closer to your microphone.
Yeah. I did this thing with Occupy in LA and did the tree. That incense cedar tree we use as a peace tree. Anyway, these trees that we could grow, we don't know where to put them, but if you took the U.S. mail and put on top of the U.S. mail truck one of these...
Yeah, Jerry, you're fading out again. I'm sorry. It's just really hard to talk to people when they put me on speakerphone. Luigi in Pensacola. Hey, Luigi, what's on your mind today?
Well, a couple things, Tom. First off, you're mentioning about those 3, Gorsuch, Amy, and Kavanaugh. Neil Katyal, the famous guy on MSNBC, he lobbied for those 3 to be on the Supreme Court.
I know. He wrote an op-ed in favor of Neil Gorsuch in the New York Times.
Yes, he did.
It's rather disheartening.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, my main theme is, and then I have a question afterwards. I need your advice on something. The main theme I want to talk about is there's a book called The U.S. Army in the Pacific War, 1941-1943. It's called Fire and Fortitude by John C. McManus, a military analyst and historian. And in page 227, 228 of that book, there's a lot of written by the Americans respond. Anyway, Sir Keith Murdoch was so violently anti-American that he had one of his rags over there called the Torch. He kept going after U.S. GI, saying they're raping married women, they're raping Australian women, they're taking Australian women from our boys who were fighting, and when the boys come home, that caused such mayhem that it led to an American soldier's death. He was shot by an Australian.
Whoa.
And this caused so much havoc.
Was this Rupert's father?
Yes. Yes.
Rupert Murdoch's father, yes. Sir Keith Murdoch. Wow, was it anti-American? Sir. Interesting.
Yes.
And what's the name of the documentary about this?
It's not a documentary. It's a book. I read it in.
And what's the book?
It caught my attention. The book is called The U.S. Army in the Pacific War, 1941-1943. It's called Fire and Fortitude by John C. McManus. It's on page 227 and 228, and it explains how he caused such dissension that the troops were at each other's throats constantly.
Wow.
And he kept going after American soldiers, and the GIs called him, he earned a reputation among the Yanks as relentlessly anti-American. And this guy is a military historian.
Fire and Fortitude. Okay, I'm going to order a copy of that book.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. So, I read that. Now I have a problem. Mm-hmm. You encouraged me several months back to go and write articles on Daily Koch, and I did that once, and I really got a lot of good kickback. My problem, Tom, I want to continue that, but I have all these notes all over my desk. Where do I start? I can't get my mind focused on where to start writing something. There's so much to write about.
Okay.
And thanks to you, it's even more.
Okay, let me give you the best advice on writing that I ever got. Back when I was in my early 20s and I had a job as a copywriter for a couple of ad agencies in Lansing, Michigan, Barden Durst and Terragraphics. And this guy, Joe Sugarman, who was one of the top advertising copywriters in the world, he was out of New York. He had this seminar, and it was like $2,500 for a weekend. I had to save up for a whole year to go to his seminar, because that was a lot of money back then. And it was just a weekend seminar. And about how to do advertising copywriting, which was the field that I was in at the time. I was 21 years old. And so anyhow, I go to the seminar, and he tells this story. He said, the number one thing you have to do when you are writing copy, and this is true of writing articles as well, is you have to be conversational. You have to communicate to people in a way that does not sound stilted, does not sound like a speech, does not sound like a pitch, but sounds like a conversation. And he said the way that I trick my mind into this, at the time, Joe had also started a company called JSNA National Sales Group, which was the precursor to Sharper Image. In fact, Richard Thalheimer, who started Sharper Image, was in the class with me. So anyhow, he said, what I do is I roll a piece of paper into the typewriter. This was back in 1971, 72. So I roll a piece of paper into the typewriter, and I think of somebody I know, I like, who I know would have an interest in what I'm going to write about. And you pick one topic, right? And so he said, I've got an aunt who is a big fan of electronic gadgets, and so I'll type it. I'll say, "Dear Aunt Millie," I just imagine this, Aunt Millie. You're sitting in your living room, and it's so quiet you can hear the traffic outside, and suddenly you hear the sound of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony just coming like just out of your walls. Just this extraordinary, crystal clear music. It's this brand new technology called the compact disc, and digital music. And I just came back from the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, and I picked up 100 of these things, and I can get one for you for only $595. Please order now, right? And then I tear off the Dear Aunt Millie, and boom, I've got my copy. And I got to tell you, Luigi, pretty much every article I've ever written, every book I've ever written, every chapter of every book I've ever written has been written to one person. I've been doing that ever since I took that class. And what it does is it forces you into a conversational tone. It causes you to be, once you realize that you're writing to, because audiences don't read things. When you publish something, by the way, it's the same thing doing radio and television. You have to think that you're always talking to just one person. Groups of people don't read things. People read things one at a time. Every single person who reads what you're writing is going to read it inside their own head, one person at a time. So only write to one person and pick a single topic and just tell that person about that topic. Was that useful?
Extremely useful. My problem is, what the heck topic? I want to get this. So for me, the topics that I pick are the ones that I'm most outraged about, or the most I'm most excited about, or okay. Some people try to write about what they think people want to hear, or what they think people want to know about. I've found that doesn't work for me, and I think generally it doesn't work. I think you need to write about what you're feeling passionate about. So what is it right in this moment, Luigi, or in the next 10 minutes? What is it, or what article have you read that really got your blood pressure up, or whatever? Find the thing that really got you excited, and then write about that. And do a little research. Poke around, plug it into a search engine, see what other people are saying, and then bang out your article. It's what I do every afternoon when I write the Hartmann report for the following day. So, Luigi, I got to run. Get on time. Yes.
Good luck.
Your articles are the ones that keep me. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Luigi. Dee in Seattle. Hey, Dee, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I was watching Scripps News a couple of weeks ago, which is now, I can't find it on the air on TV anywhere, suddenly dropped off. But they were talking about several U.S. cities were experimenting, was the word, by replacing cop with what they called the behavioral health clinicians. And I just thought, in Seattle, we don't have enough cops, and they have behavioral health in all kind of housing. It's like a new version of doing mental health, but they also have the 24/7, like replacing Western Hospital, that kind of thing. It's like a huge federal system kind of coming to town.
Right.
So I don't know how that experimenting, like, it's supposed to be a nonviolent 911 call, but things can go violent very easily. So are they running cameras? It's just experimenting. How do we know it stopped experimenting? And nobody's hearing this, or they
There's
know.
a bunch of cities that are doing this, Dee, and it's been going on for about a year and a half now. I believe we're doing
that
it
long?
here. I believe we're doing it here in Portland. Yeah, in fact, there was a one-year summary. I reported about it on this program maybe 6 months ago. Where people, where they were going back and looking at how it worked. And what they found is that, for some kinds of cases, potential suicides, some domestic disputes, not the ones that involve violence, but some domestic disputes, other things that sending essentially a social worker, well-trained, with police backup available, but a social worker or somebody trained in de-escalation is number one, solves the problem. Number two, doesn't trigger people into violence because it's not a cop car and it's not a person wearing a gun and in handcuffs. And number three, it eliminates this problem that we have all across the nation of police responding to things that really aren't crimes. They're just, issues, and then ending up shooting somebody or taking somebody down when that was an inappropriate response. And these programs actually work very well. They're modeled after programs that have been running in Europe, in some cases, for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, just running in a city like Seattle, and if Portland's like that, but we don't have enough cops.
I know, and this frees up the cops.
Yeah, I understand, but are they wearing cameras, and what if it goes to a violent in the situation?
If it goes to a violent situation, they call the police. But, over time, the 911 operators get pretty good at sorting out what's appropriate for a social worker and what's appropriate for a police officer, and of course what's appropriate for the fire department, injuries and things like that.
It's not experimental anymore?
Pretty much not. No, it's just a matter of putting it into place. I believe that Los Angeles has started this too. I could be wrong. It's been, like I said, it's been 6 months since I did the report on it here on the air, and I don't recall all the details, but it's fairly easy to look up. You can plug it into a search engine. Dee, I got to run, but thanks for the call.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's 45 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here on Anything Goes Friday. Stay with us. And welcome back, Susan in Caldwell, Idaho. Hey, Susan, what's on your mind today?
Oh, I just want to give you an update on the Republican war on women in Idaho, if you're interested.
Sure.
I went to a talk yesterday where our Democratic legislative leaders, who are all women, Melissa Wintrow, Democratic minority leader in the Senate, Lauren Nekachia, Democratic minority leader in our House, and all-around fighter in the House, Ilana Rebel. And I know that our OBGYN doctors have been leaving the state after our laws that make illegal any kind of care for a pregnant woman in trouble. And they told me by the end of this year, fully 3/4 of them are gone. Fully 3/4.
3/4
We never even had 100.
Wait a minute.
All of our OBGYN doctors.
Oh, your OB-GYNs. Wow.
Yeah. We never even had 100 for 1.7 people, 700,000 people in our state, but wow. 3/4 of them are gone by the end of the year, and it's on and on and on with our Republican friends across the aisle. They don't even want women leaving the house to go work to feed their children. This is what they will say, in session. And our so-called Republican moderates, they'll vote with these crazy positions, and they'll come and apologize to the Democrats afterwards. Yeah. We're so sorry we voted that way. We don't feel that way, but we had to vote that way. It's on and on and on, a war on women over here.
And families. I mean, it's a war on families.
Absolutely. Well, no, yeah, they don't want them fed because, so many families are led by mothers only. Well, they just don't want them fed.
Right, and if you're low income, they don't want you to have food. They don't want you to have medical services. They don't want people to have Medicaid. Idaho's a work for less state. They don't want you to have a good union job. I mean, it's like, by and for the oligarchs,
And on the Medicaid idea, you know how after the COVID emergency ended, the states were allowed to start looking at their Medicaid rolls because during the emergency of COVID, they were instructed to leave everybody on Medicaid while this thing worked its way out. Idaho is number one in throwing people off the rolls. You know how they check on you? They send you a letter. If it doesn't reach you, they send you another letter. If that didn't reach you, they try a phone call. If that didn't work, you're off. It doesn't matter if you've moved, as people do, changed your phone, as people do. You're off. But if you were thrown off without, good reason, just because they can't reach you, and you go back to them, it takes 3 months to get back on. 3 months that you and your family, they're throwing the children off the CHIPS program, too. 3 months to get back on the rolls. It's just awful.
Yeah, no, I get it. Hopefully, the good citizens of Idaho will wake the hell up and realize that, voting for basically the Proud Boys and book bans and hysteria and anger and more guns is not good for children and other living things.
Well, historically, it's not the Idaho way. Our miners at the turn of the 19th to the 20th century were right there fighting for their rights. I don't think it's this influx of people who are leaving California, et cetera, are just tilting it over.
Right-wingers, yeah. Well, there's an effort to turn Idaho into a, quote, freedom state, basically a neo-Confederate state. I remember Frank Church. He was your senator, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
And he was a good man.
We have a wilderness area named for him.
Yeah,
he's an icon.
Susan, I got to run, but thank you for the call. I'm sorry to hear what's going on in Idaho. I wish you the very best. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting Progressive Talk Radio and tag you're it. So back in 1933, when Franklin Roosevelt became president, we were in the depths of the Great Depression. He raised the top income tax rate on billionaires from 25% to 90%. The ultra-rich were screaming, and here's what he had to say.
A number of my friends who belong in the very high upper bracket have suggested to me on several occasions of late that if I am re-elected president, they will have to move to some other nation because of high taxes here. Now, I will miss them very much.
He just took it right to them, right? Now, what came out of that was the world's largest and fastest growing and first major middle class. We can do this again. We just have to raise taxes on rich people. It's pretty straightforward. There's a whole article about it over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. 9 minutes before the hour, picking up your calls here. Sean in Stamford, Connecticut. Hey, Sean, what's on your mind today?
Well, did you by chance catch 60 Minutes on Sunday night?
I did not. I haven't watched 60 Minutes in a long time. Sorry.
Okay. Well,
what did I miss?
It was a report how Israel is going far right-wing, very much the way Trump is and other nations are.
Yeah.
And poor Leslie Stahl was trying to play it down the middle, but you could see where her bread is buttered, you might say, because she was talking to the Israeli representative saying we're not going fascist here. And then you see the protesters, he's interviewing, he goes, don't you know this is what people voted for? Not realizing that it is true on the surface, but it was very disingenuous.
Yeah, I get it. No, it's Netanyahu is I think a real problem for Israel and the world in as much as he's just so right wing and so racist. And
also, I don't know if you know, but a few years back, I saw something on him that he's aligned himself with Putin as well.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, that's the thing that right-wingers all around the world are doing because they don't believe in democracy. They want strongman autocracy. And, my sense of Netanyahu, I'm not a scholar of Israeli policy, but my sense of him is that he wants to be a strongman autocrat. Or perhaps actually is. I mean,
yes, he does. And
to shut down the Supreme Court
they just might turn the courts upside down there.
Yeah, exactly. Sean, thanks for the call. Amazing. Omar in Herndon, Virginia. Hey, Omar, what's on your mind today? Omar? Not hearing Omar. Okay. Let's try Margie in Palatine, Illinois. Hey, Margie, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. I've been sitting on this since Monday, and I would consider myself remiss if I did not mention it. You were talking about 1- and 2-income families, and I know you didn't mean this because you're a great guy about this kind of stuff. But you mentioned something about, well, if you can live off of one income, it's fine if the woman wants to stay home and play house. And then you said something else. But if the man wants to stay home and parent, you see the disparity?
Yeah,
I know you didn't mean to.
I absolutely use sexist language there, and what I was betraying is the way I was raised. I mean, I was raised by a stay-at-home mom, and I grew up in that world, and sometimes it slips out. In fact, I apologized later on in the program. Somebody else called me up and called me on it.
2 of my girlfriends noticed it too, so I thought, we all say that you're just so wonderful and that you didn't mean that, and I know that, but I was a single mom. My first husband, if I ever had a thought beyond what I was going to prepare for dinner, he would say, "You've been listening to too much Oprah Winfrey," and stuff like that, and. I raised, after I got rid of him, I raised my son by myself, worked a full-time job as I was losing my eyesight, came home to make a meal from scratch, threw some laundry in, down 2 flights of stairs outside, and did all this stuff and helped raise a grandchild later on.
Wow.
So, I don't want any stupid man listening to you to think that it's playing house. You know what I mean?
Well, the point I was trying to make is that there was a time in America where about 2/3 of Americans could be supported by a single paycheck. And that arguably that's a desirable thing. Whether it's a man or a woman at home with the kids.
Sure, my mom was home and I loved it.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that having a parent with the kids, pretty much all the time is optimal. That said, that's not to slam single-parent families or 2-parent working families or anything. It's the point I was trying to make is that the Reagan Revolution basically ended that. Now, over 75% of all parents of children under 6 are full-time in the workforce.
I agree with you. That's why I had to help raise my grandchild because his mother had to work too, and it's terrible.
And I'm not sure it's a good thing. I think women having opportunity and all that. Obviously, that's a good thing. But forcing people, economically, essentially forcing people to have both parents work, particularly when children are very young, just because you want to have tax cuts for billionaires and you don't think that unions are a good idea, I think has been a tragedy. Frankly.
Exactly. My little grandson he would spot a woman that looked like his mother, and he'd say, "Mama," and I'd say, "Oh, why can't she be home with him because of this damn economy?"
Yeah.
So anyway, I just had to call you on that because a couple of my girlfriends and I thought, "Oh no, we don't want any stupid men to think that Tom means that because we knew that you didn't." Yeah,
we're kind of saying the same thing. It's just that I said it very, very badly, but I get it. And thank you, Margie.
Thanks so much, Tom.
Appreciate
and you
the
got
call.
a great show today.
Thank you. We'll be back. What Maslow overlooked. ADHD and the need to feel alive on the other side of this break. Also, Trump is going to use auto workers as props. I'll tell you about that. And I'll be picking up your phone calls here on Anything Goes Friday. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nevkett puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcast. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
It's Friday, and boy, do I have a deal for you. This is incredible. It's the end of our pledge drive. Today is the last day. I guess it'll probably extend through the weekend, but functionally, today is the last day, the last real day, the business day of the pledge drive. And our frontline funders, this group of extraordinary people, and by the way, you can become one of them just if you wish, if you have the resources. Just let them know when you call in that you'd like Lydia, the head of the development of fundraising at Free Speech TV, to get back with you. The frontline funders have put up $10,000 match. So your gift, whatever you give today, and today only, whatever you give today will be doubled. So you give $10, it becomes $20. You give $20, it becomes $40. You give $100, it becomes $200, etc. Up to $10,000. Your $5,000 gift becomes $10,000 today and today only. So if you haven't given before, today is the day. 877-378-8669 is the phone number. Or you can go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Or for that matter, you can text FSTV to 44321, and you can do it on your phone if you want. But this is just spectacular. This is this match. And on top of that, that same group of frontline funders put up another $10,000 that will be unlocked if we can hit our goal. Now, we're still $70,000 short of hitting our goal, or at least we were this morning when I got a note from Lydia, an email. And so, it's a big lift. It's a lot of money that we've got to raise today. But I believe we can do it. And I believe that you're willing to, you're going to help, that you're going to call 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution online, or text FSTV to 44321 and make it happen. Let's have a successful end to this pledge drive. The frontline funders who are making this possible: Sheila in Cochise, Arizona, Ed and Yvonne in Pennsylvania, Andrew in San Diego, Vivian and Bobby in La Puente, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Tracy in Jacksonville, Oregon, Brenda in Copperas Cove, Texas, Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia, Carol in Bandon, Oregon, Virginia, Charlene in Houston, Texas, Sam in Desert Hot Springs, California, Diane in Avalon, California, Reggie in Raleigh, North Carolina, Diane in Santa Rosa, California, Mike in Tippecanoe County, Indiana, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado. Thank you, by the way. A special thanks to the frontline funders. If you're watching, thank you so much for making this match possible and all the support that you've given to Free Speech TV
that helps all of the rest of us, just lift this network up and hold it. The gifts that are available for one-time gifts, of course, you can become a sustaining member, and you can do both. You can say, I want that book by Thom Hartmann autographed. Here's $120, or I want all 9 of them. Here's $1,000. And by the way, please charge my credit card $25 a month for the rest of the year, or for the next 12 months. And they'll do it. They'll just work all that out. They've got these databases and all this fancy stuff, and they can just make it happen. So the gifts include, with a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, a good old standby that we've had for 15 years now on this program, or the Free Speech TV window cling, or the I'm Voting Are You car magnet. With a $50 gift, you get the Free Speech TV keychain plus the window cling, or the Free Speech TV fall canvas tote bag, which is right here. It's a very cool little fall canvas tote bag. I've showed this to you before, but it's really, I like it. Let's see, that's with a $50 gift. With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV baseball cap, or the Thom Hartmann, the official Thom Hartmann Free Speech TV. This is a little beaten up and coffee stained, but you'll get a clean the program mug. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV t-shirt, or Mike book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, or David Pakman's new book, Think Like a Detective, A Kid's Guide to Critical Thinking, or Sonali's new book, Rising Up, The Power of Narrative in Pursuing Racial Justice. And I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that those books are going to be autographed too, if you want one of those books. With a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie, which is, this is a heavy-duty hoodie. I mean, this is a John Fetterman hoodie, right? This is a good, solid, healthy, heavyweight, warm, ready for winter hoodie. Well, that's it with a $200 gift. With a $240 gift, there is the virtual meet and greet where we get together on Zoom. It's typically half a dozen to a dozen people, and we'll just talk for an hour about whatever's on your mind, and I'll give you my unvarnished opinions. And, it's not recorded, so it's just us. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us for the last hour of the program. Or you can get all 9 of the Hidden History books, the whole series, which includes, voting, and I don't have I guess the list isn't in here anymore. But anyhow, voting, monopolies, guns, there's a whole bunch of them. So bottom line, we need your help now. And your gift will be doubled. Whatever you give will be matched 100% up to $10,000. So please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org. Thank you so much.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back to the second hour of our program. By the way, a couple of folks have sent me Spill and Blue Sky invitations. Thank you so much. No need to have any more. I wanted to talk, as I mentioned, Louise and I launched a new website over the weekend, Hunter and a Farmer's World, and .com. And it's about ADHD, which is a topic that is generally not political, although I have in the past in many of my writings and a lot of my speaking on this topic. I started writing about this in 1993. And, well, actually, the first time I wrote about it was in 1980, a piece that was published in the Journal of Orthomolecular Psychiatry on the hyperactive syndrome. And the political, where I get political is generally when I'm talking about, how do we fix our schools so that they work for ADHD kids as well as everybody else. But generally speaking, this is not going to be a political website. This is going to be is a website, about ADHD. And I originated this concept back in 1993 of a hunter in the farmer's world as a way of describing. It's kind of a metaphor, but over time what we've found is that there's actually probably some pretty good science behind it as a way of describing, particularly to children, but to adults as well, what it is that they're confronting when they are told that they have attention deficit hyperactive disorder or attention deficit disorder
or they're hyperactive or, whatever. And the reason I think this is so important is because we very much live our lives inside a box that we ourselves construct, or was constructed for us through our childhood by our parents and their society, the culture, and the people around us, that tells us what, it establishes a ceiling. You can't go any higher than this. This is the limit of your capabilities. It establishes a floor. This is what you could definitely do. It establishes the walls. These are the areas where you're not competent to do that, or you could definitely do that, those kind of things. We tell ourselves these stories about who we are and how we fit into the world. And these stories are incredibly important. I tell the story in this article. I believe it's in the What Maslow Overlooked. It might be in the other article. It's on our homepage at hunterandafarmersworld.com. Of a little girl named Shannon who was in a program that Louise and I ran years ago, a child care program, who had cigarette burns all over her body. She was and she was extremely violent, and she was convinced by her parents that she was no good. And the way that they disciplined her behavior, she was very ADHD. The way they disciplined her behavior was by putting cigarettes out on her. And it took us years, literally years, to convince Shannon that she was a worthy person, that she was worthy, that she could be loved, that she could be appreciated, that she could, that she was a decent human being. And finally she got it, and it was a transformational moment. When we change those stories inside ourselves. So anyhow, the question that I was confronting when I came up with this concept of what's called thalamic gain, or what Maslow overlooked, was what is the neurochemistry? What is actually happening with ADD? Why does one kid sit quietly in a classroom and do his homework while the kid next to him is throwing spitballs? What's the difference between those two kids? Why is one kid content to sit and do his homework, and another kid can't quite do it? He is constantly engaging in the outside world. He's constantly engaging with his teachers or his peers, often in a negative way, but constantly engaging. Why? Abraham Maslow posited a hierarchy of human needs. At the bottom was the need for homeostasis, to breathe and drink and eat and use the bathroom and things like that, maintain your body temperature. One step up from that was the need for safety. One step up from that was the low social needs, the need for family and basic friends. And you go all the way up through the hierarchy of human needs to the very top, self-actualization, enlightenment, spiritual understanding or self-understanding. And what Maslow pointed out was that wherever you're stuck on the pyramid, everything above that point vanishes. So if you're crossing a street and suddenly the traffic starts flying around you on both sides and you're concerned you might get hit by a car, you're not thinking about your relationships. You're not thinking about your family. You're not thinking about your girlfriend or boyfriend. You're not thinking about dinner tonight. You're thinking about getting safe. You get locked down in that. So what I posited was that there is a need, a basic human need, one of these basic levels in Maslow's hierarchy that he missed. And that it would go just above safety and just below the social needs. In other words, people would be willing to violate the social needs in order to get this need met. And that need, I said, I believe, is the need to know that you're alive. Joseph Campbell, in The Power of Myth, 1988, he said, people say that what we're all seeking is a meaning for life. I don't think that's what we're really seeking. I think what we're really seeking is the experience of being alive, so that our life experiences on the purely physical plane will have resources within them, resonances within them, within our own innermost being and reality, so that we actually feel the rapture of being alive. Now, how do you know that you're alive? The way that we experience the world is through our five senses, right? What we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we smell, what we taste. And those five senses, four of those five senses, the exception of this is smell. Smell goes directly to the brain, right from the olfactory bulb in the nose, right into the brainstem, or right into the brain. But and that's why
you walk into a place that has a particular smell that triggers a memory from childhood, and you just have no control over that memory. It's there. That's why fragrance is such powerful stuff. So anyhow, the other senses all go through a part of the brain called the thalamus, and the thalamus could be thought of as a volume control. The thalamus can turn up and turn down your sensory volume. I remember one time I was in a car accident. I was driving down a street, Grand River Avenue in East Lansing, Michigan, back in the early 70s, and it was winter and it was covered with ice. And my car I just lost control. And I started sliding into the oncoming traffic. Now, this was only 25 miles an hour, but I had a head-on collision with another car. And I remember to this day in slow motion. My thalamus, as soon as my brain realized I was going to have a crash, my thalamus just turned up all my senses and slowed down time for me. And boom, that happened. So other times, like, when we fall asleep, our thalamus turns down our senses so that we're not, awakened by every little thing that happens around us. But there's a baseline. There's a normal volume setting for the thalamus. And what I'm positing is that for normal people who can just sit and do their work, without stimulation, their need to feel alive, their knowing that they're alive, their attachment to the sensory world is sufficient. They're getting enough light, enough sound, enough sensation that they know they're alive, and there's no doubt in their mind that they're alive. But I'm also positing that for people with ADHD, the thalamic gain, the volume control of the thalamus, is set at a set point slightly lower than for, quote, normal people. And therefore, little Johnny's sitting in his classroom and his volume control is down to the point where he's not getting enough seeing and hearing and feeling that he knows that he's alive. And suddenly he starts feeling, oh my God, I'm dying, right? I'm not alive. I need to know that I'm alive. And so what does he do? He throws a spitball at little Jimmy sitting next to him and goes, hey! And the teacher's yelling at him, and suddenly the whole world lights up, right? A little jolt of adrenaline, which turns up the volume control of the thalamus, and suddenly he's alive. Now, what do we do with this knowledge? What it tells us is, number one, it explains the paradoxical effect of stimulants. Why, when you give ADHD people stimulant medications, or even coffee, it calms them down. And the reason why is because it's turning up their volume control, their thalamic volume control, and they're experiencing the world in a more rich way, and now they're content, now they're satisfied, now they know they're alive. So that tells us that for our classrooms, for our schools, if we want to have classrooms that are friendly for normal kids and ADHD kids, that the way that we do that is by having classrooms that are engaging. When I was doing a lot of public speaking on ADHD back in the late 80s and throughout the 90s, I was in Taiwan, and I visited a classroom in Taiwan. They have really, really high quality education there. And in this classroom, now I don't speak Chinese, so I could only tell what was going on by watching. But the teacher stood up at the board, and she went through it was a math class, and she did the math on the board, and all the kids were making notes and, following along. And then she sat down, and then she called on like 6 kids in the class. There were about 20 kids in the class. She called on about 5 or 6 of them, and those 5 or 6 stood up. And she sat down at her desk. And those 5 or 6 kids then had 3 or 4 kids around each one of them. They formed little pods, and the ones standing up would start talking and engaging with the ones who were sitting down. And one by one, the ones who were sitting down would start standing up. I didn't understand what was going on as I was watching this until the entire class was standing up. So afterwards, I asked the teacher, what was going on there? And she said, I did the lesson, and then I said, now who understands this enough to teach it to somebody else? And 5 kids raised their hand and said, I can do it. And so I had them stand up and teach their little groups of their own peers. It's called peer education. And as their peers learned it, when they got to the point where they felt they could teach it, they stood up too. They didn't have to teach it, but they stood up to say, okay, now I get it. And we did that until everybody in the class was standing. Everybody was engaged. The need to feel alive was fully met. So anyway, that's the article that we emailed out last night to all the people who are subscribers. Again, it's free to hunterandfarmersworld.com. and it's called What Maslow Overlooked, The Need to Feel Alive. And, I think you'll find it interesting, particularly if like me, you are an ADD person or you have ADD kids, I'm both, or you're interested in the topic. We'll get back to politics here. Trump's viciously anti-worker record in the spotlight ahead of his Detroit trip. I'll tell you about that in just a minute, and I'll be picking up your phone calls here on Anything Goes Friday, so stay tuned.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
18 minutes past the hour. It's Anything Goes Friday. Stay with us. And welcome back, Ziggy in Oneonta, New York. Hey, Ziggy, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. That was very interesting. But let me get on to my topic here. Actually, before the topic, I want to mention that I think you've heard how the Republicans' new stick is that Biden shouldn't be running because he was supposed to be a bridge candidate. And this morning I put together a design with Biden and Harris crossing this bridge, and on the bottom it says, leading us across the bridge over troubled waters.
Oh, I like that. I have not heard anybody saying that, Biden was supposed to be a one-term president. That's a new one for me.
Yeah, well, they've been starting to do that, saying that he's supposed to have been a bridge candidate anyway. Yeah. So I put this design. It's up on endbribes.com.
Cool.
And, people can take a look at it, but I just thought I'd mention that.
Great. Thank you.
And my main reason for calling, though, was on Tuesday there was a person calling in, seemed somewhat frustrated on what people can do. And, again, this last weekend, my Democratic committee and we set up a booth at a community event just to talk to people and get them to vote, a Democratic booth, trying to get them to register if they're not registered, among other things. And, I find it very fulfilling, and I'm enjoying doing it. And what I seem to find all the time is most people are very upset with what the Republicans are doing, but they feel helpless, like there's nothing that they can do. And many times it's just motivating them to say, hey, we have to vote. I know it may seem odd, in a few days maybe you'll vote and then another year. But we've got to do that because we've got to change this.
Yeah.
And I just find it very fulfilling doing that.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that. And, I have found throughout my life that the best antidote to despair is action. It's like the minute I start feeling, oh my God, we're trying. That's when I feel like I've got to write an article or I've got to go back on the air. I've got to do something, right? It's the only way to do it. So good on you, Ziggy.
Yes. And one other quick thing. I just want to mention that I will be the one who will confront any MAGA people that come around. The other people in the booth don't want to do it. And I actually get a lot of satisfaction out of that because armed with information I get on your program and other places, I'm able to call them out on their lies and stuff. And what I thought was real interesting is one of the other persons said to me, aren't you afraid you're going to get shot doing that? And it made me start thinking about the First Amendment versus the Second Amendment and how they're really trying to use the Second Amendment to suppress my First Amendment rights. And Absolutely. I just thought that was an interesting point.
Oh, that's absolutely true. And this is, like the Proud Boys who are going to school board events. I mean, it's with AR-15s strapped over their backs. It's right. There is a very real effort on the part of the right to intimidate anybody who they don't like. It's why... for the first time in American political history, in a big way, you see politicians, you see prosecutors, you see judges, you see juries being intimidated, getting death threats. Talk show hosts.
Right.
I mean, anybody who's any high profile.
Aware of it.
Yeah, you're probably getting some of it too. So, I mean, it's a real tragedy of our time and a symptom of a society that has been seriously, badly corrupted, in this case by big money, by the gun industry, by the very profitable weapons industry, and the Republicans who are their toadies. Ziggy, thanks for the call, and good luck with endbribes.com. Good on you. It's 22 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. So let me give you a little ammunition here for the next time some idiot tries to tell you that the Republican Party is the party of business. I heard it, recently on CNN. It's every Sunday on one of the Sunday shows. There'll be some Republican going, "Oh, GOP is the party of business." Not so much. I mean, between 1933 and 2020, there were 14 American presidents, 7 of them Democrats, 7 of them Republicans. So let's make a comparison. During the time of the Democratic presidents, between 1933 and 2020, the economy grew at an average rate of 4.6%. During the Republican presidents, it grew at 2.4%. For example, the economy has grown 3 times faster under Biden than it did under Trump. 10 of the past 11 recessions began under Republican presidents, although it looks like Jerome Powell's trying to break that record. Republican presidents have exploded the national debt. There's a whole long rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. Welcome back. 23 minutes past the hour. Donald Trump is going to try to upstage the Republican debate next week by going to Detroit and showing up with doing a rally for UAW workers. And I'm sure he'll get quite a few. There's a lot of auto workers who really, they're living in the right-wing information bubble. They watch Fox News. And what they don't know, and what we have an obligation to tell them, is that Donald Trump was arguably the most anti-labor president in the history of the United States, even worse than Ronald Reagan. He put Antonin Scalia's son, who makes a living as a lawyer trashing unions. He's an anti-union lawyer. He's a union-busting lawyer. He put Scalia's son as head of the Labor Department, an anti-union labor. I mean, an anti-labor lawyer. He stacked the National Labor Relations Board with anti-union officials. He gutted the Labor Department regulations aimed at protecting workers' wages and benefits. He nominated 3 Supreme Court justices who all have an anti-labor record. Put agency heads with long histories of siding with employers over employees into positions throughout the federal government. And he delivered huge tax cuts to the morbidly rich and giant corporations, including the major automakers. So now Trump is running a radio ad that's playing in Detroit and Toledo that says, "Trump always had your back." It doesn't point out that on 2 different occasions in the 2016 campaign, Donald Trump said U.S. auto workers' wages were too high. Too high. That was his phrase. T-O-O-H-I-G-H. Too high. That's what Donald Trump said. Those were his words. The International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees wrote in a social media post on Tuesday, quote, "The last time Donald Trump visited striking union workers, it was to cross our picket line against The Apprentice in 2004. Now he wants to visit a UAW picket line? When billionaires show what they think of labor, believe them," adds the union. Now, Shawn Fain is the first UAW president elected directly by rank-and-file members. It used to be kind of a 2-step process. And he came out yesterday to speak out against Donald Trump showing up and trying to sucker the auto workers. He said, "Every fiber of our union is being poured into fighting the billionaire class and an economy that enriches people like Donald Trump at the expense of workers. We can't keep electing billionaires and millionaires who don't have any understanding of what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck and struggle to get by, and expecting them to solve the problems of the working class." He said Donald Trump's anti-worker, anti-union record is one of the key reasons why Michigan rejected Trump in 2020. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm guessing that it'll be a very carefully controlled event where they will just be letting right-wingers in, the Trump followers, the cult members, and we'll see how it plays out and whether there's protesters and whether the UAW can get anybody out there. But keep an eye on this. It's actually a pretty smart play on his part. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
I'm back with your calls on the other side of the break. It's Anything Goes Friday. It's Friday, and boy, do I have a deal for you. This is incredible. It's the end of our pledge drive. Today is the last day. I guess it'll probably extend through the weekend, but functionally, today is the last day, the last real day, the business day of the pledge drive. And our frontline funders, this group of extraordinary people, and by the way, you can become one of them just if you wish, if you have the resources. Just let them know when you call in that you'd like Lydia, the head of the development of fundraising at Free Speech TV, to get back with you. The frontline funders have put up $10,000 match. So your gift, whatever you give today, and today only, whatever you give today will be doubled. So you give $10, it becomes $20. You give $20, it becomes $40. You give $100, it becomes $200, etc. Up to $10,000. Your $5,000 gift becomes $10,000 today and today only. So if you haven't given before, today is the day. 877-378-8669 is the phone number. Or you can go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Or for that matter, you can text FSTV to 44321, and you can do it on your phone if you want. But this is just spectacular. This is this match. And on top of that, that same group of frontline funders put up another $10,000 that will be unlocked if we can hit our goal. Now, we're still $70,000 short of hitting our goal, or at least we were this morning when I got a note from Lydia, an email. And so, it's a big lift. It's a lot of money that we've got to raise today. But I believe we can do it. And I believe that you're willing to help, and that you're going to help, that you're going to call 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution online, or text FSTV to 44321 and make it happen. Let's have a successful end to this pledge drive. The frontline funders who are making this possible: Sheila in Cochise, Arizona, Ed and Yvonne in Pennsylvania, Andrew in San Diego, Vivian and Bobby in La Puente, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Tracy in Jacksonville, Oregon, Brenda in Copperas Cove, Texas, Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia, Carol in Bandon, Oregon, Steve in McLean, Virginia, Charlene in Houston, Texas, Sam in Desert Hot Springs, California, Diane in Avalon, California, Reggie in Raleigh, North Carolina, Diane in Santa Rosa, California, Mike in Tippecanoe County, Indiana, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado. Thank you, by the way. A special thanks to the frontline funders. If you're watching, thank you so much for making this match possible, and all the support that you've given to Free Speech TV that helps all of the rest of us, just lift this network up and hold it. The gifts that are available for one-time gifts, of course, you can become a sustaining member, and you can do both. You can say, I want that book by Thom Hartmann autographed. Here's $120, or I want all 9 of them. Here's $1,000. And by the way, please charge my credit card $25 a month for the rest of the year, or for the next 12 months. And they'll do it. They'll just work all that out. They've got these databases and all this fancy stuff, and they can just make it happen. So the gifts include, with a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, a good old standby that we've had for 15 years now on this program, or the Free Speech TV window cling, or the I'm Voting Are You car magnet. With a $50 gift, you get the Free Speech TV keychain plus the window cling, or the Free Speech TV fall canvas tote bag, which is right here. The very cool little fall canvas tote bag. I've showed this to you before, but it's really, I like it. Let's see, that's with a $50 gift. With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV baseball cap, or the Thom Hartmann, the official Thom Hartmann Free Speech TV. This is a little beaten up and coffee stained, but you'll get a clean one, a fresh one, the program mug. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV t-shirt, or Mike book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, or David Pakman's new book, Think Like a Detective, A Kid's Guide to Critical Thinking, or Sonali's new book, Rising Up, The Power of Narrative and Pursuing Racial Justice. And I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that those books are going to be autographed too, if you want one of those books. With a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie, this is a heavy-duty hoodie. I mean, this is a John Fetterman hoodie, right? This is a good, solid, healthy, heavyweight
warm, ready for winter hoodie. Or, well, that's it with a $200 gift. With a $240 gift, there is the virtual meet and greet where we get together on Zoom. It's typically half a dozen to a dozen people, and we'll just talk for an hour about whatever's on your mind, and I'll give you my unvarnished opinions. And, it's not recorded, so it's just us. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us for the last hour of the program. Or you can get all 9 of the Hidden History books, the whole series, which includes, voting, and I don't have I guess the list isn't in here anymore. But anyhow, voting, monopolies, guns, there's a whole bunch of them. So bottom line, we need your help now. And your gift will be doubled. Whatever you give will be matched 100% up to $10,000. So please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org. Thank you so much. Hey, if you like the rants that I open the show with every day, they're typically published over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. Between 40 years of Ronald Reagan's neoliberalism destroying the American middle class and all the just horrors of January 6th and the Trump presidency, America's waking up, and that's a really good thing. There's actually, some books coming out about this. Mine, The Hidden History of Democracy. Neil Howe's The Fourth Turning is here. And it looks like a moment of American Renaissance is upon us, if our media doesn't screw it up, which raises the question, can we have democracy and Fox News? Can the two coexist? Like, when Fox News runs chyrons saying that essentially Joe Biden is a wannabe dictator who's throwing Trump in jail because he's his political opponent. There's a whole rant about this and an in-depth analysis of what can we do with regard to repairing our media here in the United States over at HartmannReport.com. I think you'll find it interesting. Check it out. And welcome back. It is, 35 minutes past the hour. Picking up your calls here on Anything Goes Friday. And let's see. Oh, there was one thing. I knew that there was something I wanted to mention here. That is the strike wave. I was talking about how Trump is going to try to go speak to the UAW. Strike waves are expanding. This is a good thing for democracy. It's a good thing for the American middle class, the working class people, because it means that we're finally starting to stand up to the billionaires and the hedge funds and the giant corporations. Tens of thousands of flight attendants, the Association of Professional Flight Attendants, 26,000 American Airlines flight attendants are on the verge of a strike vote. 6,500 Alaska Airlines, Southwest, United Airlines, they're all fighting for new contracts. Kaiser Permanente, 85,000 employees. They're represented by a contract. They're demanding a new union. In Colorado, Oregon, California, and Washington, D.C., they voted to authorize strikes. Las Vegas, the 50,000 hotel workers with the Culinary and Bartenders Union, they're going to have a strike vote on the 26th of this month, next week. More than 350,000 workers have gone on strike across the U.S. just this year in pursuit of higher wages, improved benefits, and better working conditions. And last week, 13,000 auto workers at the big three, GM, Ford, and Stellantis / Chrysler, went out on strike. So good stuff, right? Good stuff. All right, let's pick up your calls here. McQuain in Chino Valley, Arizona. Am I saying your name right?
Yes, sir, Tom.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, I'm just curious. Can you cite any specific examples where Cornel West or Code Pink has actually said, turn Ukraine over to Putin? That really surprises me.
Yeah, I got an email yesterday, I think it was, about an event that they're holding either this weekend or next in, I think in D.C., maybe it's New York, that was, peace for Ukraine. And when they say peace for Ukraine, you know what they mean. In fact, the email said U.S. out of NATO. I mean, this is like give Russia what they want.
Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, Okay. I'm sorry to hear that.
There's if you go to HartmannReport.com and you read today's op-ed, and it's free, you don't have to sign up or anything, you can just go there and read it. And you read today's op-ed, there's a paragraph in there where I say formerly progressive groups, are even, and I mentioned Cornel West, and there's a hot link. You can click on it and it takes you right to his website.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wes in Winnemucca, Nevada. Hey, Les, what's on your mind today?
Thank you, Mr. Hartmann. You have a great show.
Thank you.
I got to change the pace. I got to change the pace here a little. Trump he wears a girdle and he wears lifts, and you can't believe anything he says. So after a lot of investigation, a couple of us came together, and we came together with an over and under on his height and his weight.
You're talking about Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, and the over-under on his height is 5'11" and a half.
Yeah, I've seen. There's pictures of him standing next to Obama. Obama's 6'1", and he's about 2 inches shorter than Obama.
Anyway, 5'11" and a half. Yeah, and the other is 307 is the over-under on his weight. And the reason I say that is because I was up to 250 pounds at one point. I've lost some of it now, but I was smaller around the waist than him. Yeah, and I'm 5'5".
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's.
I mean, if you add a foot to me, you got 300 pounds.
Yeah, he said when he was arrested, he said he was 6'3", and what did he say his weight was?
235.
235. Yeah, give me a break. Donald Trump he has to lie about everything. I don't think he's happy if he's not lying. I think he's just so dissatisfied with reality.
I disagree with something you said the other day, and I very rarely disagree with you. But you said that you thought that he believed what he's saying. Mm-hmm. And because of my past, I was in a lot of group therapy and had the wonderful experience of living in a couple of different mental institutions when I was way younger, long time ago.
Yeah.
And I got to know some of these people. People are really gone.
Yeah.
And even the ones that acted like they believed what they were saying, when you really sat down and talked to them, they would admit that they knew it was all a game.
That's interesting.
All a con.
Well, I think the reason
is a con.
I get that. I totally get that. The reason why I thought or why I continue to think that he actually believes a lot of what he's saying is that the strategy for people who are professional liars, pathological liars, whether it's driven by a psychopathology or whether it's simply driven by a desire to avoid prosecution, for example, in the case of Donald Trump, is you say it a couple of times until you start to believe it yourself. And it makes it a lot easier to remember.
Cons himself.
Say what?
A good con man cons himself.
Exactly, my point.
But it's still a con.
No, I'm with you, Les.
Talk to them, they'll admit it.
Oh, I imagine if you really pinned Donald Trump down, if he had a moment of honesty, which is probably impossible, but if he had a moment of honesty, he would admit that they were lies. But I think at some deep level, a lot of this stuff he actually believes. It makes it a whole lot easier to be a successful con man if you convince yourself of your own lies. Les, thanks for the call. That was a good one. Keno in Lakeland, Florida. Hey, Keno, what's on your mind today? How's our old former Republican doing?
Well, glad that I'm out of the Republican Party as it gets deeper and deeper into hell. And
crazy land.
I want to offer a negative and a positive.
Okay.
The first negative is yesterday, machines were acting up all over the place. At the bank, they issued a new credit card, and the new credit cards won't work, and so they told us to use the old credit cards, and then went to the post office, and I'm supposed to send in an amended return to the IRS, and the computer at the post office said the zip code for that P.O. box was different than what the literature from the IRS was. And then I went to the library, and for some reason, the copy machine, they try to make it affordable for people at the library for the copy machine, 15%. The machine jumped up to charging people 25 cents. And the repairman came and says, I can't understand this. He changed the motherboard. And I heard a discussion, on artificial intelligence a few weeks ago, and they said, how do we know the machines haven't already taken over? But at the library, the library said when that copy machine was changing the price. He says, you know, there's a theory of the dead internet, that more and more of the internet is becoming dead as it's filled with information, bad, wrong information. And you said this coming onslaught by the Chinese and Russians in our 24 election. So a lot of the internet is dying, and we got to be aware of that. You know, I'm a techno-skeptic, and so we got to be aware of the dead parts of the internet. And now you're a big user of the internet and so on. But now, enough of that for something positive. The Republicans are misogynist. We got to come. They promote misogyny. They're in the Democratic Party. We got to get that message out to women across this nation. Phylogeny, Democrats, not those. Now, not all Republicans are bad, horrible misogynists, but their leaders are. And misogyny and phylogeny, that's the choice in the coming election, despite what the dead computer internet is going to be telling people. What do you think, Tom?
I think it makes a lot of sense, Kino. And the gremlins in the machine are they're acting up. We had our automation system this morning crashed, just as we both our nonprofit and our for-profit. They're separate machines, and they both crashed roughly at the same time. It was like, whoa, what's going on here? Mercury's not retrograde anymore. I don't know what's happening, Kino.
Tom, how do you know that you're not being manipulated? Didn't they cut you off on the 1st of September, not let your program be presented?
No, nobody's ever cut us off. We have had, technical failures. That has happened, but nobody has ever censored us or cut us off, Kino. I know there are millions. Whenever it happens, whenever there's a burp someplace we had an equipment failure here. Actually, we had a cable, and I've never heard of cables failing, but we had a cable fail, and it took us off Free Speech TV for 20 minutes.
Okay, don't you know, when George W. Bush was in president, he brought in Poindexter and Elliot Abrams that had been in Iran-Contra, and they programmed the computer system to analyze the population. So is the computer going to go again? They talk about a deep state of supposedly Democratic influencers, but the real deep state is the Republicans in the system manipulating the computer. And Poindexter and Elliot Abrams went in and when George W. Bush and set up the system to analyze people from the computer.
Yeah, this is the whole Patriot Act stuff. Yeah, I get it. Kino, that's serious stuff. Thank you very much for the call. We'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archive.
45 minutes past the hour. Back with your calls on Anything Goes Friday. Stay with us. And welcome back. Terry in Ventura, California. Hey, Terry, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Tom, you're leading a story as to the attorney generals of Missouri acting to facilitate Chinese propaganda.
Yeah.
This just absolutely forced me to have to call you today, Tom. I wish to bring your attention to a story in the Washington Post on June 6th of this year called "These Academics Studied Falsehoods and Now the GOP Wants Answers." Jim, if the Republican Party didn't have racist memes or conspiracy theories to propagate, they would be speechless. They wouldn't have a thing to say. Well, anyway, this story in the Times alluded to the current efforts by Jim Jordan and the powers he has in his committee to harassed organizations that are investigating digital hate and lies.
Right.
And let's see, they mentioned some of the organizations that are suing institutes that track these lies.
Yep.
By the way, if you ever watch Channel France 24, Europe has stronger laws as to falsehoods in their media.
They do.
France 24 has a series on once a week. Yeah. And anyway, it shows how they use the current technology to track down lies. Well, anyway, as I said, the Republicans, if they couldn't lie, didn't have lies, they wouldn't have anything to say. Well, anyway,
other than tax cuts. Yeah.
Okay, right, correct. Well, anyway, Jim Jordan has been harassing these agencies because some of the organizations that facilitate lies. It seems like the story said Gateway Pundit. If my memory is correct.
one of the right wing websites that frequently carries content that is not true.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, the story, as I recall, it said that I believe the Gateway Pundit is suing organizations that track international lies. And Jim Jordan has been using his subpoena power. Columbia, Stanford, and a third university has institute that study conspiracy theories. And anyway, I believe that Gateway Pundit is suing these organizations, saying if lies are revealed, it impacts their ability, their First Amendment rights.
Right.
Organizations that track lies include, like, Graph Hiker, I believe, Stanford Internet Observation Institute was another, and they've been harassing this Kate Starbird. Tom, if we could just reveal their lies and have the media do such. By the way, the D.C. Post had the fortitude to carry this story, Tom. If their lies could be revealed, man, the harm that would do. And I can see why Jim Jordan is so upset with those who track lies, okay?
That's the thing that is so troubling, Terry, is this unholy alliance between right-wing media operations that traffic in falsehoods, in lies and half-truths, and the Republican Party. You shouldn't have to lie to people or have other people lie on your behalf in order to acquire or hold political power. But that's very much where the GOP is now. And it's certainly where Donald Trump has taken it in the last 5 years, 6 years. And it's a real shame. Terry, thank you for the call. Spot on. That was a brilliant article in the Washington Post, by the way. I read it at the time. Thank you. It's 49 minutes past the hour. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Right now, we have the most extreme Supreme Court since the 1930s. And one of the main reasons is because these justices, A, have lifetime tenure, and B, in the 1990s, after a series of disappointments with William Brennan and Earl Warren and David Souter and a few others that have been nominated by Republicans, these justices tend to become more liberal once they're given lifetime tenure. So now we've got right-wing billionaires throwing gifts at them, emoluments, speaking fees. John Roberts' wife made $10 million, hooking people up with law firms. All the Republicans on the court are in on the grift. And it's really not so much designed to thank them for what they're doing, but to keep them conservative. Because in the past, Republican appointees have turned liberal. They're not going to let that happen. There's a whole rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. All righty, picking up your calls here. Gary in Edwardsville, Illinois. Hey, Gary. Thanks for listening to Sirius XM. What's on your mind today?
Oh, yeah. I'm talking about something that I'm really passionate about, Social Security.
Go for it.
And they say the happiest point of a person's life is when he turns 21, and he doesn't reach that happiness level again until he's retired.
Yeah. Well, that was the story. We did that as Geeky Science yesterday. Peak happiness, actually, is at the age of 70.
I read it. Yeah, I read it somewhere. But anyway, the left, Democrats, socialists, they don't realize the importance of Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you a bit of history here, Tom, to illustrate this. You remember the race between W. Bush and Al Gore for president?
I do.
Okay. Well, I followed the polls for a while, and W. was about 10 points behind on every poll, and it looked like he didn't have a chance. Well, he got on the radio. There was a short clip on the news, lasted probably about 15 seconds. W was on there with his face, and he said he was crying. I'm not gonna harm Social Security.
Mm.
And I said to myself, "Uh-oh."
Yep.
This is going to change everything.
Yep.
And it did.
Yep.
The very next poll that came out, Dumb W had pulled up ahead, actually slightly ahead of Al Gore.
Yep.
From behind when it didn't look like he had a chance.
Yep. And W had spent his whole entire life. I mean, when he ran for Congress in 78, I think, the first time he ran for Congress, his platform, this was in Texas, his platform was ending Social Security. I mean, it was his lifelong ambition. When he got reelected in 2004 and 2005, he gave a speech. He said, I have political capital now, and I'm going to use that political capital to privatize Social Security. And he went on a 30-city tour, and he got about 10 cities into it and found that the more he spoke about the need to privatize Social Security and turn it over to J.P. Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs, the more people didn't like him. So he stopped talking about it.
Well, that's why he was running 10 points behind, and when he got started crying, this was like a 15-second clip is all it was.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not going to harm Social Security. That changed. I said to myself, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the very next poll that came out, he had actually pulled ahead of Al Gore because of this negative endorsement of Social Security, i.e., I'm not going to harm it.
Yeah.
So that's the most positive thing a Republican say about Social Security is I'm not going to harm it. You know,
yeah.
And another thing, when Trump tried to gut out Social Security by removing payroll tax, you didn't hear anything about it. The Democrats should have been all over this. Where were they?
Yeah.
He tried to gut Social Security by eliminating payroll tax, and he said he wanted to make it permanent.
Yeah. Let me give you a clip here that I think will make your day, Gary. This is out of my computer, Sean, if you want to bring it up. This is Franklin Roosevelt, the president who created Social Security in 1935, running for re-election in 1936.
Let me warn you, and let me warn the nation against the smooth evasion that says, of course we believe these things. We believe in Social Security. We believe in work for the unemployed. We believe in saving homes. Cross our hearts and hope to die. We believe in all these things. But we do not like the way the present administration is doing them. Just turn them over to us. We will do all of them. We will do more of them. We will do them better. And most important of all, the doing of them will not cost anybody anything.
How was that, Gary?
Pretty good. Like I said, the Democratic Party doesn't realize the importance of Social Security.
Yeah.
I mean, senior citizens are a huge voter bloc.
Yep.
Get on the stick and start rubbing this in the Republicans' face.
I agree.
About Social Security.
And Medicare, too. Yeah. I completely agree, Gary. I'm with you. Gary, I want to get one more call in here before the hour runs out. Thanks for the call. Dan in Newark, New Jersey. Hey, Dan, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Good. What's up?
Hey, first of all, I read your book on the Supreme Court. It was excellent.
Oh, thank you. The Hidden History of the Supreme Court. I really appreciate that.
It opened my eyes. It was really a good read. I want to ask you a question. This is Free Speech TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
How come you didn't mention Bob Menendez today?
Bob Menendez got arrested for corruption.
Yeah, how come you guys didn't say anything about it, though?
Well, if I'm going to trash politicians, I'd frankly rather trash Republicans than Democrats.
Well, I know, but
and B, I'm assuming that he's innocent until proven guilty. But yeah, he got busted, and it looks really bad. I mean, they found gold bars and cash and
$500,000 in cash and a Mercedes Benz.
Yep.
And you know what?
Here's the story, Dan. If he resigns or steps down, you've got a Democratic governor in New Jersey who has the power to replace him according to the state constitution. So I think frankly Bob Menendez should step down given the severity, the apparent severity of these crimes.
Find somebody better?
Say what?
Don't you think they could find somebody better than that guy?
I think so.
I live in Jersey, for Christ's sakes, and it's an embarrassment.
No, I get it. I'd be pretty horrified if he was my senator, frankly. And yes, we have to acknowledge everybody is innocent until proven guilty, including Bob Menendez. But gold bars and cash and a Mercedes Benz, I don't know.
I just don't know. And I'll cut Democrats all kinds of slack, but I don't know about this one. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
In addition to bringing you the Thom Hartmann program here on Free Speech TV and Video Media Online, we also have a whole set of ways you can interact with us and tools you can use to spread the word about the importance of democracy and the threats to it in our republic. First, there's your daily homework. Sue Nethercutt puts together a daily email newsletter that has a link to every story I discuss on the air, so you can find my sources and you can share them with your friends. It's free and you can sign up at thomhartmann.com. Second, I publish my daily take every day over at the hartmannreport.com website. That's also free if you want the daily 5 days a week rant in your inbox. No ads either. Third, we have the podcasts. There's the free 1-hour version of our daily show that's advertising supported. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts normally. And then there's also the podcast of the entire 3-hour show with no advertisements, and that's available by subscription over at thomhartmann.com. So check them all out at thomhartmann.com and hartmannreport.com.
We say fight back!
It's Friday, and boy, do I have a deal for you. This is incredible. It's the end of our pledge drive. Today is the last day. I guess it'll probably extend through the weekend, but functionally, today is the last day, the last real day, the business day of the pledge drive. And our frontline funders, this group of extraordinary people, and by the way, you can become one of them just if you wish, if you have the resources. Just let them know when you call in that you'd like Lydia, the head of the development of fundraising at Free Speech TV, to get back with you. The frontline funders have put up a $10,000 match. So your gift, whatever you give today, and today only, whatever you give today will be doubled. So you give $10, it becomes 20. You give 20, it becomes 40. You give 100, it becomes 200, et cetera, up to $10,000. Your $5,000 gift becomes $10,000 today and today only. So if you haven't given before, today is the day. 877-378-8669 is the phone number. Or you can go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Or for that matter, you can text FSTV to 44321, and you can do it on your phone if you want. But this is just spectacular. This is this match. And on top of that, that same group of frontline funders put up another $10,000 that will be unlocked if we can hit our goal. Now, we're still $70,000 short of hitting our goal, or at least we were this morning when I got a note from Lydia, an email. And so, it's a big lift. It's a lot of money that we've got to raise today. But I believe we can do it. And I believe that you're willing to help, and you're going to help, that you're going to call 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution online, or text FSTV to 44321 and make it happen. Let's have a successful end to this pledge drive. The frontline funders who are making this possible: Sheila in Cochise, Arizona, Ed and Yvonne in Pennsylvania, Andrew in San Diego, Vivian and Bobby in La Puente, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Tracy in Jacksonville, Oregon, Brenda in Copperas Cove, Texas, Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia, Carol in Bandon, Oregon, Steve in McLean, Virginia, Charlene in Houston, Texas, Sam in Desert Hot Springs, California, Diane in Avalon, California, Reggie in Raleigh, North Carolina, Diane in Santa Rosa, Canoe Canoe County, Indiana, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado. Thank you, by the way. A special thanks to you, to the frontline funders. If you're watching, thank you so much for making this match possible and all the support that you've given to Free Speech TV that helps all of the rest of us, just lift this network up and hold it. The gifts that are available for one-time gifts, of course, you can become a sustaining member, and you can do both. You can say, I want that book by Thom Hartmann autographed. Here's $120, or I want all 9 of them. Here's $1,000. And by the way, please charge my credit card $25 a month for the rest of the year, or for the next 12 months. And they'll do it. They'll just work all that out. They've got these databases and all this fancy stuff, and they can just make it happen. So the gifts include, with a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, a good old standby that we've had for 15 years now on this program, or the Free Speech TV window cling, or the I'm Voting Are You car magnet. With a $50 gift, you get the Free Speech TV keychain plus the window cling, or the Free Speech TV fall canvas tote bag, which is right here. It's a very cool little fall canvas tote bag. I've showed this to you before, but it's really, I like it. Let's see, that's with a $50 gift. With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV baseball cap, or the Thom Hartmann, the official Thom Hartmann Free Speech TV. This is a little beaten up and coffee stained, but you'll get a clean one, a fresh one, the program mug. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV t-shirt, or Mike book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, or David Pakman's new book, Think Like a Detective, A Kid's Guide to Critical Thinking, or Sonali's new book, Rising Up, The Power of Narrative and Pursuing Racial Justice. And I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that those books are going to be autographed too, if you want one of those books. With a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie, which is, this is a heavy-duty hoodie. I mean, this is a John Fetterman hoodie, right? This is a good, solid, healthy, heavyweight, warm, ready for winter hoodie. Well, that's it with a $200 gift. With a $240 gift, there is the virtual meet and greet where we get together on Zoom. It's typically half a dozen to a dozen people, and we'll just talk for an hour about whatever's on your mind, and I'll give you my unvarnished opinions. And, it's not recorded, so it's just us. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us for the last hour of the program, or you can get all 9 of the Hidden History books, the whole series, which includes, voting, and I don't have I guess the list isn't in here anymore. But anyhow, voting, monopolies, guns, there's a whole bunch of them. So bottom line, we need your help now. And your gift will be doubled. Whatever you give will be matched 100% up to $10,000. So please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org. Thank you so much.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So, welcome back to the third hour of our program. And are Trump's opponents in an arm race to out-extreme each other? This is an amazing story. Donald Trump tried his Schedule F order, which would have reclassified basically management-level federal employees out of the civil service system and into you can be fired any old time. And the idea was, and there's 50,000 people, and out of 2.2 million federal workers. And the idea was that he wanted the management of the EPA, he wanted the management of Homeland Security, he wanted basically the management of every federal agency to be a Trump loyalist. So when he said jump, they'd say how high instead of resisting many of his efforts. Well, Vivek Ramaswamy now is saying that instead of just rescheduling 50,000 people, that he wants to just start out with a meat axe. He wants to fire 1 million federal workers on day one. Just boom. Just gut the federal government. This, of course, is what Vladimir Putin wants for the United States. Why Vivek Ramaswamy is promoting this, I don't know. I mean, I know why Trump is saying it because, it's what Vladimir Putin wants. And probably Ramaswamy is wanting it because, the Trump followers have concluded that, what Donald Trump says they should say too, and they should try to double and triple down on. But this is truly bizarre. I mean, this is absolutely bizarre. There's a piece in the New Republic about this, by Norman Ornstein and Daniel Kettle. And they concluded that, quote, attacking government has been a surefire Republican applause line since Reagan. Right. Also, who revels in such cruelty? Donald Trump, the story was in the Atlantic yesterday, this piece about General Mark Milley and how General Milley had invited a badly wounded soldier who had multiple tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan and had come back, just very severely wounded. He was in a wheelchair, but he could sing, and he sang the national anthem or God Bless America, one of those books, or one of those songs rather, excuse me. And Donald Trump, after the guy sang the song, Donald Trump came over to him and said thank you, and then standing right there, he turned to Mark Milley and said, nobody wants to see injured people. Just don't invite this guy again. Can you imagine? This is the same guy who said about John McCain, I like soldiers who weren't shot down. Rick Wilson, the former Republican campaign consultant, said Trump's loathing for an injured war hero speaks more volumes about his low, repulsive character than almost any of the other stories of his public or private behavior. I've read damn near every account of his degenerate, foul life, and this one still shocks. George Conway, the former husband of his press secretary, Kellyanne, says, who is such a person? A malignant narcissist, a soulless, conscienceless, morally bereft individual, relentlessly driven by pathological levels of narcissism, sociopathy, sadism, and Machiavellianism. Just incredible. Lawrence Tribe, the famous lawyer, said, who revels in such cruelty? Speaking of cruelty, and this is the last story, and then I'll pick up your calls for the rest of the hour here. The meat industry, and it's not really the meat industry, because the meat industry is kind of multifactorial. There is the big ag, the big factory farms, and then there are a lot of kind of medium-sized farms that don't confine animals and don't have giant lagoons of pig poop and stuff. And then there are even small operations that tend to do organic meat and things like that. It's or just range fed and stuff like that. But the big ag part of it, the really big part of agriculture, the corporate agriculture, they routinely pack chickens into battery cages so crowded that the chickens can't stretch out their wings. The calves raised for veal can't even turn around in the crates that they're in. Pregnant pigs are held in gestation cages so small they can only sit or stand or lie down in them. They can't turn around, they can't move. And so now the Republican-led Ending Agricultural Trade Suppression Act, or the EATS Act, Ending Agriculture Trade Suppression is what's EATS Act. Well, let me hang on. Let me back up a little bit. There's over 1,000 laws in 26 states. These are principally blue states that say you can't do that. If you're going to raise hogs, you've got to let them move around. If you're going to raise chickens, you got to give them a little space. If you're going to raise veal calves, you have to, treat them humanely. So now comes this Republican-aligned group that has proposed this EATS Act that is a federal piece of legislation that would preempt over 1,000 state and local laws designed to anti-cruelty laws designed to protect animals. It would also preempt, in other words, throw out all the laws that regulate puppy mills and kitten mills. 80% of voters, this was up for a public ballot in Massachusetts. Shall we ban, these crates and cages and things and, require farms that raise meat animals, shall we require them to have humane conditions. 80% of Massachusetts voters said yes, they should be humane conditions. This act being promoted by Republicans in the House of Representatives right now and the Senate would overturn that law in Massachusetts. There's a similar law in California. It wasn't done by ballot initiative. It was done by the legislature, but same thing. It would overturn over 1,000 laws. California's was passed by the people. It was Proposition 12, excuse me. And in fact, the Supreme Court upheld it as constitutional. This bill would also weaken public health protections. Last August, or last month, more than 150 bipartisan House lawmakers signed a letter urging the House Agriculture Committee not to include the EATS Act in the Farm Bill. A group of 30 U.S. senators signed a similar letter rejecting the EATS Act. But right now, the Farm Bill that looks like it's going to come out of the House of Representatives will probably have this in it. So get ready. Republicans just can't, they can't help themselves. If a big corporation or a billionaire says jump, Republicans just impulsively say, how high, how high? Oh, yes, yes, sir, yes. All right, let's pick up your calls here. Sue Ellen in St. Simons Island, Georgia. Hey, Sue Ellen, what's up?
Well, I was interested in your thoughts on the RICO indictment of the 61 protesters for Cop City.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a travesty. I think it's an abomination. I think it's a misuse and abuse of the RICO laws in Georgia.
Well, you're shocked, I'm sure, but I totally agree with you. And it's on the, Mother Jones has done articles on it. The ACLU is hair on fire on it.
They're fighting it.
But I don't know what we can do, because if we protest in Georgia, we're going to get arrested.
Right. The First Amendment guarantees your right to free speech and your right to peaceably assemble to petition the government for redress of grievance. That's the exact language of the First Amendment. And charging people under the RICO statutes for conspiring to peaceably assemble. I realize that not all of the protesters are peaceful, and the ones who are not peaceful, I am a fan of direct action, and if you're willing to go to jail for a principle that you believe in and you want to lay down in front of the tanks, as it were, God bless you. But most of the people involved in the Cop City protests were peaceful. And to go after those people, or intended to be peaceful, and to go after those people using this RICO law, by the way, this is not Fani Willis who's doing this, and it's not, this is the state attorney general who's doing this. I forget his name.
Chris Carr.
There you go, Chris Carr, thank you.
Chris Carr is no Fani Willis.
Yep. And so, this is the Republicans going after the Cop City protesters. And I think it's a crime itself. I think it's an abomination. It's a clear, in my mind, a clear violation of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. And I don't think it'll hold up under constitutional scrutiny. But you never know with, 6 right-wingers on the Supreme Court. Yeah, yes. And the Georgia Supreme Court as well. That's where it'll go first, is to the Georgia Supreme Court. Sue Ellen, thank you. Thank you for the call. And thanks for bringing that up. We haven't talked about that anywhere near enough. It's 15 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
16 minutes past the hour. Back with your calls in just a second here. And welcome back. Michael in St. Augustine, Florida. Hey, Michael, first-time caller. What's on your mind today? Michael? Okay, when you call in, do not listen to your TV. If Michael's watching Free Speech TV, don't be watching Free Speech TV. I mean, you can watch it, but turn the volume all the way down, because there is a delay between the time that I speak and you hear it. And so, Michael, I'm going to put you on hold so that Mark can pick up your call, and we'll go to Deborah in Columbia, Tennessee. Hey, Deborah, thanks for watching us on YouTube. What's on your mind today?
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Yeah, something that you've said several times about Medicare and Medicare Advantage. My brother gave me a call because he's getting ready to go on Medicare. He's going to retire from an insurance company. And he told me that, they give him free insurance for life. And he wanted to know what I knew about it. And I said, whatever you do, don't go on a Medicare Advantage plan like you've told me. It is not part of Medicare. He said, yes, it is. It's Part C. And so we went back and forth. So I actually went on the government site, and it says that Medicare Advantage is Part C.
Yes and no.
If you want to go on a gap, it's Part G.
Right. Part C authorizes Medicare Advantage, but Medicare Advantage is not Medicare.
So that's what it is. It's authorizing it. It's
That's
not
correct.
part, because he kept telling me, no, an Advantage plan is a government plan. I said,
No,
I
it's
don't
not.
believe
It's absolutely not a government plan. Just like Part G, which authorizes the Medigap plans, is also not Medicare. It's just an authorization. It allows you to sell a policy to people over 65, because basically what Medicare did was say you can't sell insurance to people over 65, and because they qualify for Medicare. And in 2003, when George Bush passed the Medicare Improvement Act, what it did was it added Part C, D, and G, and I think there's an E, maybe there's an E and an F, I don't know. But what it did is it said that insurance companies can sell private insurance products to people who are on Medicare that would replace Medicare Part A and B.
Wow, you answered a huge question for me. Thank you.
You're
One
welcome,
other
Deborah.
thing, as far as if you get cancer and you have to go in the hospital and it eats up everything, why is it that your Medigap and your Medicare would not pay for those expenses? Are you going to continue to be, are the cost of the drugs, if you get cancer, are they just too exorbitant?
Why would they not pay for it?
I don't know. I had someone told me that all cancer,
Someone lied to you, Deborah.
anything that you need for cancer is not,
No.
everything is approved.
Somebody lied to you. There may be some drugs that are not part of the Medicare formulary, although I just don't know about that. But I had prostate cancer. Medicare covered it. Louise had breast cancer. I think that was before we were on Medicare. But Medicare covers cancer, absolutely, 100%, and so do Medigap plans. There are, to the best of my knowledge, no exceptions. Now, if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, they will try to micromanage that. They'll try to get you on the cheapest drug possible. They will force you to prove that you actually need all that kind of stuff. If you're on actual Medicare, though, no problem. There's nobody between you and your doctor or you and your hospital.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a
Good
great
luck,
day.
Deborah. Thank you. We'll be back. It's 20 minutes past the hour. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. When Volodymyr Zelensky became president of Ukraine, he was dealing with one of the more corrupt countries, a legacy of the Soviet time, with a number of very, very corrupt oligarchs who basically owned politicians. One of them, like Viktor Medvedchuk, was essentially the Rupert Murdoch of Ukraine. He owned a television network and a bunch of TV stations and was constantly pumping out right-wing poison and tearing people apart. And he owned a bunch of politicians. So, and this is the part most Americans don't know. Last June, a new law came into effect. It was passed the year before in Ukraine that basically says to the oligarchs in Ukraine, you can stay rich if you want, but you can't use your money to influence politics. No more oligarchs in politics. They called it de-oligarchization. Seriously. There's a whole piece about it over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. "21 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls here. Larry in Los Angeles. Hey, Larry, what's up? What's on your mind?
Hey, I heard you say something about Bill Clinton that I'd like to correct, and that is Bill Clinton never cut spending while he was president. He always increased spending. And he balanced the budget by by actually increasing taxes on the rich.
You're right.
And,
he did cut the rate of spending increase, though, which is how he ended up with a balanced budget at the end of 8 years.
That's what Republicans were always complaining about, because he cut the rate of increase.
Yep.
And they were running around claiming only in America is cutting the rate of increases a cut in spending.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Larry. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah. So but regarding these countries that the Saudis, Putin, India, North Korea, Israel, and Brazil is even showing some tendencies to do this. These are all the people who hate us, for the most part.
Yeah, generally speaking.
And
India is
and
maybe
Israel
not so much.
and the Saudis getting together is something that we should be concerned about that, because we know that the Russians have been trying to influence our elections. Israel has done the same thing. They love Republicans. And now the Saudis and Israel is getting together. That's troubling.
It is and it isn't. I mean, if Netanyahu and MBS can work out a peace deal that just basically ends the Arab-Israeli battles and begins the process of integrating the Palestinians into the larger society of the Middle East, if the Arab states will take some responsibility for that and recognize the existence of Israel, then that could be a really good thing. I don't expect that to happen. I expect it to be an alliance of right-wingers, but, there's a small possibility.
That's not what concerns me, though, because I'm actually quite pro-Israel, but I don't like the leader.
Yeah, I'm with you, Larry.
Never did like him.
Yeah.
And so when and I don't believe in coincidences either. So you have Russia and the Saudis getting together, and all of a sudden, every time we're getting close to having the Fed decide whether or not he's going to increase the Fed rate, like just this week, all of a sudden the price of crude goes sky high, and it did it again. I pointed this out before. They are looking at playing the Fed so that they can increase inflation in America, so that will make people upset here in America, and then Donald Trump will become president again. This is a political play, and Donald Trump, I believe, is the first president to ever bring the whole world into our politics by inviting these guys to mess around with our elections.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, Russia, please hack Hillary Clinton for me, and sure enough, they did. For example,
and then the Russians giving the NRA millions of dollars or however much it was.
Yeah.
And there's just so
the
much
NRA laundered that money into Ted Cruz's campaign and Donald Trump's campaign. Yep.
And then when Donald Trump's Justice Department finally did catch that Russian woman, did they get rid of her?
Yeah, Maria Butina. She's now in the Duma. She's now in the Russian Parliament.
Yeah. And all of that stinks.
Yep.
And I will give Trump credit for this, because he didn't start all this mess. This mess started when we got rid of when Ronald Reagan got rid of and I'm blanking on the freedom, whatever it was.
Can't help you here, Larry. I'm not sure where you're going.
Anyway, when all of a sudden, when we didn't have to provide an alternative viewpoint to news that right-wingers...
Oh, you're talking about the Fairness Doctrine.
The Fairness Doctrine.
Right.
When they got rid of that is when the Republicans came in and just started basically attacking our country.
Oh, yeah.
A
year later, Rush Limbaugh started his show, and then, a couple of years after that, Fox News rolled out.
That's when all the hate started. That's when all the lies started, and that's when the billionaires realized, hey, we can use this.
Yep, and that's when America started going from having debate politics to having hate politics.
Right, and all of that is brought to us by the billionaires. It was Donald Trump who finally realized, hey, lies are profitable.
Yep.
And I still remember that one time when he was out there on the stage, and he goes out there and says, Hillary Clinton is a bigot. And I remember that woman, she was shocked, but everybody started clapping, and she looked around, and then slowly she started clapping too.
Yeah.
And that is how it works.
That's
how peer
exactly
pressure
right. You're exactly right, Larry. And that's how propaganda works. And that's what the GOP and the Russians are all about. Larry, thank you. Always nice to hear from you.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's Anything Goes Weekend. Back with your calls on the other side of this break. It's Friday, and boy, do I have a deal for you. This is incredible. It's the end of our pledge drive. Today is the last day. I guess it'll probably extend through the weekend, but functionally, today is the last day, the last real day, the business day of the pledge drive. And our frontline funders, this group of extraordinary people, and by the way, you can become one of them just if you wish, if you have the resources. Just let them know when you call in that you'd like Lydia, the head of the development of fundraising at Free Speech TV, to get back with you. The frontline funders have put up $10,000 match. So your gift, whatever you give today, and today only, whatever you give today will be doubled. So you give $10, it becomes 20. You give 20, it becomes 40. You give 100, it becomes 200, etc. Up to $10,000. Your $5,000 gift becomes $10,000 today and today only. So if you haven't given before, today is the day. 877-378-8669 is the phone number. Or you can go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Or for that matter, you can text FSTV to 44321, and you can do it on your phone if you want. But this is just spectacular. This is this match. And on top of that, that same group of frontline funders put up another $10,000 that will be unlocked if we can hit our goal. Now, we're still $70,000 short of hitting our goal, or at least we were this morning when I got a note from Lydia, an email. And so, it's a big lift. It's a lot of money that we've got to raise today. But I believe we can do it. And I believe that you're willing to help, and you're going to help, that you're going to call 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution online, or text FSTV to 44321 and make it happen. Let's have a successful end to this pledge drive. The frontline funders who are making this possible: Sheila in Cochise, Arizona, Ed and Yvonne in Pennsylvania, Andrew in San Diego, Vivian and Bobby in La Puente, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Tracy in Jacksonville, Oregon, Brenda in Copperas Cove, Texas, Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia, Carol in Bandon, Oregon, Steve in McLean, Virginia, Charlene in Houston, Texas, Sam in Desert Hot Springs, California, Diane in Avalon, California, Reggie in Raleigh, North Carolina, Diane in Santa Rosa, California, Mike in Tippecanoe County, Indiana, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado. Thank you, by the way. A special thanks to the frontline funders. If you're watching, thank you so much for making this match possible, and all the support that you've given to Free Speech TV that helps all of the rest of us, just lift this network up and hold it. The gifts that are available for one-time gifts, of course, you can become a sustaining member, and you can do both. You can say, I want that book by Thom Hartmann autographed. Here's $120, or I want all 9 of them. Here's $1,000. And by the way, please charge my credit card $25 a month for the rest of the year, or for the next 12 months. And they'll do it. They'll just work all that out. They've got these databases and all this fancy stuff, and they can just make it happen. So the gifts include, with a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, a good old standby that we've had for 15 years now on this program, or the Free Speech TV window cling, or the I'm Voting Are You car magnet. With a $50 gift, you get the free keychain plus the window cling, or the Free Speech TV fall canvas tote bag, which is right here. The very cool little fall canvas tote bag. I've showed this to you before, but it's really, I like it. Let's see, that's with a $50 gift. With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV baseball cap, or the Thom Hartmann, the official Thom Hartmann Free Speech TV. This is a little beaten up and coffee stained, but
You'll get a clean one, a fresh one, the program mug. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV T-shirt or Mike book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, or David Pakman's new book, Think Like a Detective, A Kid's Guide to Critical Thinking, or Sonali's new book, Rising Up, The Power of Narrative in Pursuing Racial Justice. And I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that those books are going to be autographed too, if you want one of those books. With a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie, which is, this is a heavy-duty hoodie. I mean, this is a John Fetterman hoodie, right? This is a good, solid, healthy, heavyweight, warm, ready for winter hoodie. Well, that's it with a $200 gift. With a $240 gift, there is the virtual meet and greet where we get together on Zoom. It's typically half a dozen to a dozen people, and we'll just talk for an hour about whatever's on your mind, and I'll give you my unvarnished opinions. And, you know, it's not recorded, so it's just us. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us for the last hour of the program, or you can get all 9 of the Hidden History books, the whole series, which includes, you know, voting and I don't have I guess the list isn't in here anymore. But anyhow, voting, monopolies, guns, there's a whole bunch of them. So bottom line, we need your help now. And your gift will be doubled. Whatever you give will be matched 100% up to $10,000. So please call now, 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org. Thank you so much. From international trade policy to immigration policy to housing, we've got all kinds of topics. The wars between Republicans and Democrats, the Republican efforts to induce fascism in the United States. Selection of opinions will be found over at hartmanreport.com. So when a political party embraces violence as a political tool, what is the end game? Where does this lead? How does this work out? How does this end? We've seen this in other countries historically. In fact, we tend to refer to them as fascist countries. We saw it in Germany and Spain and Italy in the 30s. We saw it in the 60s in Chile with Pinochet. It appears to be happening now here in America as well. We have Republican politicians calling for violence, calling for civil war, preaching violence along, and not to mention the former president, Donald Trump, basically begging for violence to defend him. And how does this work out? It tends not to work out well. And there's a whole piece laying out all the details of this over at hartmanreport.com. It's titled, What is the End Game for a Party of Violence? Check it out. And welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls. Bobby in La Puente, California. Hey, Bobby, what's on your mind today?
Good morning, Free Speech TV.
There you go,
everybody
Bobby.
Listening.
Yep.
Prayers to everyone.
Thank you.
For the weekend. And no, what I heard, the young lady that called in, single parent, you know, the hard work. I know you got jumped on, but I grew up in the same era, right?
Mm-hmm.
So mom stayed at home, union jobs, and it was work. I had a little piece of it myself when Vivian's still working. 6 months. It is work. I learned to appreciate your mom, my mom, all mothers, grandmothers. It was tough, but at the end, satisfying because I was raising our granddaughter, okay, from a little pollywog, 1, 2, 3, 2 years old, getting into everything. I had 3 kids, but I never experienced my children because I was working nights.
Yeah.
A blessing. Short-term pain, long-term gain, but there was no pain. It was a blessing. I just want to say to the ladies, you know, God bless you, because I learned what it's like. Man, my mind was all over the place. Laundry, mopping, shopping, dusting.
Yeah, it's work.
Wow.
It's uncompensated work, too, in our society, which is unfortunate.
Oh, they need a pension, and I honor them. I always do Labor Day. Don't forget the ladies and the men that stay home, some of us. So I did it.
Yep.
The
well,
pleasure,
good on you, Bobby.
Exercise. Tom, my granddaughter, dancing, man, she had me dancing again. Oh no, 4 dances is enough. So, and I want, and your show is part of it. See, I do a grateful list. I learned to do that, and your show is one of them.
Well, thank you,
Geeky
Bobby.
Science. I have to share that.
Yep.
70, yeah, we're over 70, right? Happy. Yeah, I use a little plant, but it's okay.
Yep.
You know what I mean, for the pain.
Yep.
And
Me too.
I'm grateful. And yes.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Bobby. It's nice to hear from you. Thanks for the kind words and the wonderful sentiments. It's always so nice to hear from you, and give Vivian our best. Thank you. Darian in Fort Mill, South Carolina. Hey, Darian, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, it's actually Darren. But
Darren, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, it is Darren.
That's all right.
I said it wrong.
Yeah.
My fault.
Oh, man, you really touched on a topic right now that is what I live every day. You can tell talking on the phone, I get a little bit
What topic is
jittery,
that?
But ADHD.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm 50. Yeah, I'm 51, and so at my age, in 1980, when I was young, around 8, I was diagnosed or whatever with a behavioral disorder. But I was that kid throwing spitballs,
Mm-hmm.
and I was that kid that had the teacher had a desk, and my desk was always right next to hers, and then everybody else had their desk.
Yep. Same here.
But yeah, and so, but I was good in some other areas. I was a good athlete, and and I was relatively popular and stuff. So, but I really wasn't good at communication, and I wasn't good at these other things, and I couldn't focus. So I struggled through school. I did make it through college, and I did really well in life. I had a successful career. I worked for a big medical company. It was one of the top, on Forbes 100. It was number 2. So I did really well at a young age, but I found myself in that box you're talking about, and I freaked out, and I just couldn't do it anymore. But anyways, long story short is, as I got some help from my ADHD as an adult, I knew it was a little bit more than that, So, but then I just recently was diagnosed with autism. So, but it's on the spectrum. It's and I have ADHD as well. So they're kind of two different things working against each other. But this topic is so dear to my heart, and you're so right. I think more than anything, I have your book, by the way. Mm-hmm. I think more than anything, it's an evolutionary process. Whether this is how we're we're losing this genetics, and I'm just kind of an outlier. You and me are outliers, and the rest will conform, or we're on the front edge. And maybe
I think we're on the leading edge. I mean, Thomas Edison was one of us. Ben Franklin was one of us. I mean, the people who have really changed the world, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. Adolf Hitler is probably one of us too. But some really remarkable people. I cite a lot of them. I tell a bunch of biographies in my first book on this topic, ADHD, Hunter and a Farmer's World. So yeah, I'm with you, Darren.
Yeah, and I've been watching you, Tom, for like 20 years, and so, but basically, when I left my job, I left this really, really good job. I was married, but I was masking. I was living a life that wasn't me, and it got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore because it's the sensory stuff,
Yeah.
And people don't really realize it. But so I got into drugs and addiction, and I almost died several times.
Oh my!
But I made it through. I made it through all that because the only reason I was living is because I had to find out what this was, and it was that autism. And but the path was through ADHD and public health and doctor of mine. So the good news is, I found something to do on my own, which is grow gourmet mushrooms, like the lion's mane and
So you found your passion.
Yeah, and I don't really deal with many people, but. I mean, I get the dopamine satisfaction you're talking about. It's not the doing. It's after you're done and you look at it. I've never been more satisfied in my life, and
that's wonderful.
It also brings you back to the earth, and it brings you back to how actually we all live as one organism on this planet. It's just profound, and I'm hoping I'm getting to that enlightenment part of the Maslow hierarchy. But anyways, you tickled me today. What a cool topic, and.
Well, thank you, Darren. Thank you, Darren. Yeah, you familiar with Paul Stamets?
Oh yes, I did. That's the Bible.
Yeah, I have met Paul. He's an amazing guy. A friend of mine made a movie about him.
Lynn Lear, Norman's wife, and it's out there someplace. I'm not sure exactly where, but and he's got a line of mushroom products that he sells that you can find online and stuff. But yeah, it's good stuff.
Some guy perfecti. Is it?
Yeah.
You and I too, we have a lot in common. So I'm from Michigan, by the way.
Very cool.
I was born in Royal Oak in '72. So I'll talk to you again, Tom. I know you gotta go.
Thanks a lot for the call, Darren. Good to hear from you, and keep up the great work. Don in Orange, Texas. Hey, Don, what's on your mind today?
Yes, Tom. I'd like to find out if you heard President Biden speaking of the money that had been put on hold that belongs to Russia, $1 trillion that they were going to use to pay for the damage that has been to Ukraine. But I couldn't understand who takes care of America's debt when they invade like Vietnam and the destruction that they did. Did they set up a fund to pay that for the?
No, we didn't. It's one of the great hypocrisies. In fact, when Biden was in Vietnam just last month, he did not apologize for what we did, and he really should have. Lyndon Johnson lying us into the war in Vietnam, or more properly, Robert McNamara lying us into the war in Vietnam, was a major crime, just like George W. Bush lying us into the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Afghanistan and Iraq. And we haven't apologized to those countries either. And we haven't made it good. And we've covered both of those countries now with depleted uranium, just like we covered Vietnam with Agent Orange. And you're going to see birth defects for generations. So yeah, I'm all in favor of using Russia's money to rebuild Ukraine. But we have, we've got a lot of debts. I mean, we've got a huge debt to black people, and whose ancestors were brought to this country and treated brutally and forced to build this country. Essentially, we've got a huge debt to the people of Vietnam, the people of Iraq, and the people of Afghanistan, and frankly to other countries where we overthrew democracies. El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. We should be helping those countries put themselves back together. And once we do that, they'll stop sending their people up here. I mean, or their people, if Guatemala had a government that was as functional as Costa Rica, for example, where education is free and healthcare is free, it would be a whole complete, it would transform Central America, and it would change our southern border too. But, sadly, that's not what's going on. But, Don, you make a good point. Thank you very much for the call. It's 45 minutes past the hour. We'll be in a few seconds. We'll be right back with more of your calls. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's Talk Media for the sane among us. Yes, we are still here. I'll be back with more of your calls. And welcome back. Carol in Monessen, Pennsylvania. Hey, Carol, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Something you said this morning kind of set my hair on fire.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I agree with you on it, but I guess something's been rattling around in the back of my mind for a while that I hadn't really fully come to grips with. Mm-hmm. And it's this. I am old enough to remember when Vladimir Putin was one of the heads of the KGB. Mm-hmm. And I
lived in Germany when he was, and he was in East Germany.
Oh, boy. Well, then you know. He was a psychopathic killer from the get-go, cold-blooded man. Yep. And now he's also doing terrible war crimes in the Ukraine. But what bothers me the most is when you said this morning, Trump Republicans.
You mean Putin Republicans?
I'm sorry, Putin. Yeah, Putin Trump Republicans. Yeah. And I just realized for the first time what that really might mean. Yep. Because as horrible as Putin was during communist era, and also my husband is Polish, so I don't have to tell him too much about Putin either. Yep. But the fact is that I don't think he's changed. And I have this terrible fear that all of a sudden, all of these MAGA Republicans under Trump think that Putin is, God's answer to fixing America. Yep. when in fact my greatest fear now that I thought about it is, are we handing Vladimir Putin his lifelong goal, which has always been to destroy America?
Yeah.
He hates this country, always has.
Yep.
And I wonder what your feeling about that is. I've only heard people speak of this peripherally.
Yeah.
But what would it mean if they did take over and Putin did actually have this country in his hands? My God, what would that be like?
That's what will happen if Donald Trump becomes president again. He owes his life to Vladimir Putin. In the 1990s, when he went bankrupt 6 times, he ran out of money, he was broke, and it was Russian oligarchs, who all of them in bed with Putin, and many of them probably using Putin's money, who bailed Donald Trump out, according to both his sons at different times. And according to people like David K. Johnston, who have done the deep dive on it. And now you've got about 24 Republicans in the House and Senate, 7 senators, and I guess 10 or 12, maybe 10 or 15 in the House of Representatives, who are openly taking Putin's side on the Ukraine conflict, taking the side of autocracy because they're autocrats. Matt Gaetz wants a strongman government. He wants a Putin-style leader. He wants Trump back in the White House, and these guys. Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say these guys they wouldn't hand America over to Putin. What they would do is they would turn America into Russia and form an alliance with Putin, which is what Donald Trump was very close to doing when he ran out of time as president.
Well, the thing is, as my Polish husband would agree, I don't think they would very much like a Putin-style government if they had it.
Not after a few years. They would like it at first.
I think it wouldn't take that long. I don't think it would take that long. Yeah. Because really, it would be a horror. It would be a horror.
It absolutely would. You're absolutely right.
We need to educate these people.
I'm with you. And that's what I'm trying to do every day here, Carol. And in my writing at Hartmann Report, that's my goal, is to help wake people up. Carol, thank you so much for the call. We got a big job ahead of us here, as they say. It's 49 minutes past the hour. We'll be right back with more of your calls. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica, or one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting Progressive Talk Radio, and tag you're it. So remember the John Durham investigation in which he said, the FBI never should have looked into Donald Trump's connections to Russia. And I'm scratching my head going, how can he even think this? I mean, the guy that Donald Trump hired as his first campaign manager, Paul Manafort had taken $66 million from oligarchs associated with Vladimir Putin to install Viktor Yanukovych as the dictator of Ukraine. $66 million. He took money from, he was paid $1 million by the dictator of Zaire, back when it was Zaire, to develop a strong relationship with Moscow. And when finally they threw Yanukovych out of Ukraine, that was in 2015. What did Manafort do? He came to the United States and he said to Donald Trump, well, let me help you, while he's taking money from Moscow. I mean, if nothing else, that should have been a starting point, a huge starting point for the FBI. There's a whole rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. And Kevin in Oxford, Michigan. Hey, Kevin, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Thank you for everything you do. You're just an awesome person. But this is just an opinion question. I want to know what you think if the Department of Justice, Jack Smith, are they going to go after these people in Congress that were part of, showing the Capitol, part of the coup? These people. If we would have held them responsible. Like immediately, you were part of this coup, we could have had, 135 more elections in this country and, kind of got us back on track of, where we need to be. And I'm just wondering, do you think that...
It doesn't look like they are, Kevin, and that's troubling.
I mean, Jack Smith is still running a grand jury in Washington, D.C., and the grand jury is still taking testimony. But I'm guessing that if they were taking testimony around Matt Gaetz, for example, or Barry Loudermilk, giving tours to people, or Lauren Boebert, live texting, or live tweeting rather, where Nancy Pelosi was when people were looking to murder her. You would think that if they were investigating that, these people would have figured that out, found out about it, and they'd be squealing like stuck pigs. And instead, they're strutting around pretending that they're the kings of Congress. So my guess is they're going to get away with it, which is a tragedy, and I think it's an indication of what a wimp Merrick Garland is. Frankly, he should be playing a role in this, and he's chosen not to. But that's what I know, Kevin. Kevin, thanks for the call. Jeff in Portland. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Happy Friday, Tom.
Thank you.
Great show. Thank you, and great show and excellent calls. But the call that moved me the most this week was concerning your longtime call screener, Joyce, and from her son-in-law describing Joyce's cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that a lot next week.
Okay, great, because, I've never met her, but after years of calling in, I can't say enough great things about her, and so I wish her the best and to stay strong. But turning to politics, Tom, I want to say that I think there's method to the madness and the draconian cuts to government and to our social safety net that these MAGA Republicans are demanding right now. As you know, FDR, back in 1944, about 80 years ago, in the State of the Union, he said, quote, "We have come to a clear realization of the fact that true individual freedom cannot exist without economic security and independence. Necessitous men are not free men. People who are hungry out of a job are the stuff of which dictatorships are made," unquote. Yep. So in my opinion, Tom, the fight for living wage jobs with decent benefits and good health care, this fight that's playing out from picket lines from Detroit to Hollywood, it's the fight for the economic and democratic soul of America. So it's up to President Biden and Democrats to make it as clear as day that they're on the workers' side, they're on our side, and conversely to call out these Republicans for wanting people to be so financially desperate that they'll vote for a wannabe dictator like Trump. I think this is the crux of the 2024 election. What do you think, Tom?
I agree. I agree, and your quotes were perfect, Jeff, and I think that, this is a battle for democracy as much as it is economic. And so, spot on. Thank you for sharing that with us today. Elizabeth in Falmouth, Maine. Am I saying that right, or is it Falmouth?
It's Falmouth. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, listen, happy Friday to you as well. And I'll keep it really quick. I'm sorry. I swallowed down the wrong pipe. Listen, I listened to Michael Moore's podcast this morning. Mm-hmm. And he had the filmmaker Scott Burns on. He's the writer and director of this new powerful streaming series on Apple TV called Extrapolations. Mm-hmm. And Apple has taken down the paywall through Monday, so that's why I'm glad I got through today. But anyway, it's an analogy series of 8 episodes. It tells 8 separate stories of what life will be like over the next few decades on our planet as the climate catastrophe gets worse. Mm-hmm. And it's starring Meryl Streep and Diane Lane, Edward Norton, a bunch of people. But anyway, Michael was so moved by it. He watched it twice already and mentioned that he couldn't watch the New York part. He was trying to watch it 3 times without crying, and he said that he couldn't do it. So I just wanted to get the word out there. And
so what's the name of the series again?
It's called Extrapolations. And the filmmakers Extrapolations.
On Apple TV. Okay. All right. I'll check it out.
And they've taken the paywall down, too, so anybody can watch it through Monday.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. Ellen in Crosby, Maine, North Dakota, excuse me. Hey, Ellen, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Best wishes to Joyce.
Yeah. I'll be telling you the whole story on Monday. We only have about 30 seconds here, though, Ellen.
Okay, I read the book Cyber by Farley Mowat many, many years ago. He told of how the young, now they're old people, built city after city on permafrost. And I looked it up with news technology at the time. I looked it up on Google, and it says that 2/3 of Russian cities and towns are built on permafrost. Climate change is causing the permafrost to melt with catastrophic results.
Ellen, I got to run, but your point was well made. Thank you very much. It is, climate change is just whacking the whole planet. Hey, special thanks to Louise Hartman, Sean Taylor, Nate Atwell, Jamie Holly, Nigel Peacock, Sue Nethercutt, Patrick Hoyt, Geraldine Halbert, Ron Hartenbaum, Chase Spross, Nicholas Miller, Pat Sweeney, Al Gorilla Rhythm, Jay LeBlanc, Jeremy Peterson, Mark Thompson, Connor Arroyo, and Carne Verde, all the folks who work on this program. Special thanks. And thank you for being with us today and this week. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us. So get out there, get active, tag, you're it. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll catch up with you on Monday.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
It's Friday, and boy, do I have a deal for you. This is incredible. It's the end of our pledge drive. Today is the last day. I guess it'll probably extend through the weekend, but functionally, today is the last day, the last real day, the business day of the pledge drive. And our frontline funders, this group of extraordinary people, and by the way, you can become one of them just if you wish, if you have the resources. Just let them know when you call in that you'd like Lydia, the head of the development of fundraising at Free Speech TV, to get back with you. The frontline funders have put up $10,000 match. So your gift, whatever you give today, and today only, whatever you give today will be doubled. So you give $10, it becomes $20. You give $20, it becomes $40. You give $100, it becomes $200, etc. Up to $10,000. Your $5,000 gift becomes $10,000 today and today only. So if you haven't given before, today is the day. 877-378-8669 is the phone number. Or you can go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Or, for that matter, you can text FSTV to 44321, and you can do it on your phone if you want. But this is just spectacular. This is this match. And on top of that, that same group of frontline funders put up another $10,000 that will be unlocked if we can hit our goal. Now, we're still $70,000 short of hitting our goal, or at least we were this morning when I got a note from Lydia, an email. And so, it's a big lift. It's a lot of money that we've got to raise today. But I believe we can do it. And I believe that you're willing to help, and you're going to help, that you're going to call 877-378-8669 or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution online, or text FSTV to 44321 and make it happen. Let's have a successful end to this pledge drive. The frontline funders who are making this possible: Sheila in Cochise, Arizona, Ed and Yvonne in Pennsylvania, Andrew in San Diego, Vivian and Bobby in La Puente, California, Bill in Boise, Idaho, Tracy in Jacksonville, Oregon, Brenda in Copperas Cove, Texas, Suzanne in Catlett, Virginia, Carol in Bandon, Oregon, Steve in McLean, Virginia, Charlene in Houston, Texas, Sam in Desert Hot Springs, California, Diane in Avalon, California, Reggie in Raleigh, North Carolina, Diane in Santa Rosa, California, Mike in Tippecanoe County, Indiana, Joe in Washington, D.C., Mac and Tiana in Cowdrey, Colorado. Thank you, by the way. A special thanks to the frontline funders. If you're watching, thank you so much for making this match possible, and all the support that you've given to Free Speech TV that helps all of the rest of us, just lift this network up and hold it. The gifts that are available for one-time gifts, of course, you can become a sustaining member, and you can do both. You can say, I want that book by Thom Hartmann autographed. Here's $120, or I want all 9 of them. Here's $1,000. And by the way, please charge my credit card $25 a month for the rest of the year, or for the next 12 months. And they'll do it. They'll just work all that out. They've got these databases and all this fancy stuff, and they can just make it happen. So the gifts include, with a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, a good old standby that we've had for 15 years now on this program, or the Free Speech TV window cling, or the I'm Voting Are You car magnet. With a $50 gift, you get the Free Speech TV keychain plus the window cling, or the Free Speech TV fall canvas tote bag, which is right here. It's a very cool little fall canvas tote bag. I've showed this to you before, but it's really, I like it. let's see, that's with a $50 gift. With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV baseball cap or the Thom Hartmann, the official Thom Hartmann Free Speech TV. This is a little beaten up and coffee stained, but you'll get a clean one, a fresh one, the program mug. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV t-shirt or Mike book, The Hidden History of American Democracy, autographed by the author, or David Pakman's new book, Think Like a Detective, A Kid's Guide to Critical Thinking, or Sonali's new book, Rising Up, The Power of Narrative and Pursuing Racial Justice. And I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that those books are going to be autographed too, if you want one of those books. With a $200 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hoodie, which is, this is a heavy-duty hoodie. I mean, this is a John Fetterman hoodie, right? This is a good, solid, healthy, heavyweight, warm, ready for winter hoodie. Well, that's it with a $200 gift. With a $240 gift, there is the virtual meet and greet where we get together on Zoom. It's typically half a dozen to a dozen people, and we'll just talk for an hour about whatever's on your mind, and I'll give you my unvarnished opinions. And, you know, it's not recorded, so it's just us. With a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us for the last hour of the program, or you can get all 9 of the Hidden History books, the whole series, which includes, you know, voting and I don't have I guess the list isn't in here anymore. But anyhow, voting, monopolies, the guns, there's a whole bunch of them. So bottom line, we need your